This episode of the podcast is brought to you by HRH Combat Arms. They can turn your vision into reality. They specialize in gunsmithing and Cerakoting. Your Cerakote specialist is Air Force veteran and retired police sergeant Paul Ware, a.k.a. the Sarge. He can Cerakote your firearms, auto parts, tools, even your sports equipment. And then your master gunsmith is Marine veteran Steve Miller. This veteran-owned business is located at 5025 Saunders Suite, 103, Fort Worth, Texas, 76119. You can call them at 682-304-0363, and you can find them online at www.hrhcombatarms.com. That's www.hrhcombatarms.com. All right, welcome back. Two Cops, One Donut. I am your host, Eric Levine. I have a special guest with me today, Brian Bolton. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good.
A little close. Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's got. See how it's right up in my grill.
Right.
Yeah. You did.
Is that better?
Yep. That's a lot better. Yeah. So, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Thank you. How are you this morning?
Got a little lost this morning, eh?
Followed the maps on the phone and went to the wrong place.
I have a. So for those that don't know, I live on a circle. I won't give you my address because I don't need any more stalkers, but I live on a circle, and for whatever reason, the city people that set this up, they decided that they were going to have the same address number, but just a north and a south on a circle. So very often that address that you went to, their Jimmy John's, their pizza deliveries usually come to my house. So he loves Jimmy John's, by the way.
Right? Oh, wow.
It's probably weekly, maybe every other week. We'll go bi-weekly to be fair.
It's a good sandwich.
Yeah. And the Jimmy John's, they haven't figured it out yet because they keep coming back to my house. Right. But our Amazon deliveries constantly getting mixed up. But this neighborhood is, at least the circle that I live in, very tight-knit. And so, like, we all know each other. We got each other's numbers. I bring their packages over to them personally. They bring them over to me. We make sure each other get our packages and whatnot. So,
well, that sense of community in the neighborhood, I think, is waning. It's nice you have good neighbors.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. And all of these people that live here, most of them, in their 50s or higher, and they all are either them or their parents are the ones that got this neighborhood established back in the early 60s. So my house is I think it was built in 72, but my neighbor's next to me is built in like 63.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. I like it.
Our house is built in 54. It's just a one-story ranch style. And, the neighborhood I'm in, there's a few original owners that are remaining, but it seems the folks that are moving in are relatives of the original owners.
Yeah.
Weird twist of fate. So it's kind of a full circle. People returning to the roots of their forefathers.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat to see that there's a lot of pride in the neighborhood. And the neighbors look out for each other's stuff, and hey, there's a suspicious car driving by, or hey, I got your package off the porch.
Yeah.
It's something you don't see every day. My parents live in Colleyville, and they don't know their next door neighbors. I mean, everybody's like on an island of their own.
Yeah. My buddy lives out in Colleyville. He lives right on we always tease him because, all right, for those that don't know, Colleyville is a little more well-off city than the city right next to it, which is Bedford. Or it begins with a B, right?
Oh, there's Bedford.
Bedford, yeah.
Up there.
He lives
North Richland Hills. It's kind of
he lives right on the line, so your taxes significantly go up if you live in Colleyville versus Bedford. And so we tease him because cops don't make a whole lot, let's face it. And he's living in a area code that's a little bit above what a normal cop would be at. He got a sweet deal in a house and all that. So we tease him like, oh, I'm Colleyville. You fancy? I was like, is your Mercedes in the driveway? Teasing him. I'm like, how often does your pool boy show up? We just tease him all the time. He's like, you guys are jerks. He's like, if I'd have lived right across the street, you wouldn't be saying nothing. I was like, you're probably right.
Yeah, the property taxes are high out there.
Yeah. Property taxes are high.
Well, everywhere.
Everywhere here compared to Flint, where I'm from. So, yeah. But anyway, buddy, let's get into the meat and potatoes about you. So just for those that are wondering, this episode's going to be about defense attorney, what they do, all that stuff. And we'll get into a little bit of judgeship, talk about what judgitos do, because Brian's running for a judge position as well. So I will give the mic to you, sir. Where are you from? What's up?
Well, I lived in Tarrant County originally for several years when I was a younger child. And my dad was an airline pilot, so a commercial airline pilot. So we got transferred to Memphis in 1979. So I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and my dad was class of 70 from A&M. I got into A&M out of state, so I came back to Texas, went to College Station.
Oh, okay.
Then went back to Tennessee and got married, and then came back to Texas to go to law school at Texas Wesleyan, which is now Texas A&M School of Law. And then right out of the DA's office, right out of law school, rather, I got a job at the Dallas County DA's office. They were the first DA's office to give me a position. So I went to work for Bill Hill. He was the last Republican district attorney in Dallas County. Wonderful experience.
Yeah.
And I'm indebted to Mr. Hill for giving me that position. Got my trial chops, and I left the DA's office and became a criminal defense attorney. I was at the DA's office nearly 3 years, and became a defense attorney, and then hooked up with one of my law school colleagues. And we've been together since 2006 or 2007, doing criminal defense work all across the state of Texas. I've practiced in over 50 Texas counties.
Okay.
In state and federal court. Most of our business, of course, is here in the Metroplex.
Yeah.
But we've got probably 20% as the outlying counties, the outer rim.
Gotcha. So to go back a little bit. So you decide you're going to be an attorney. Mm-hmm. You want to do law and all that. And is the typical path, do most people when they start law go to the prosecutor DA side first?
Well, I think to get the trial experience, you go to the prosecutor's office because you're in trial. Well, before the world came to an end, of course, this is 20 years ago.
Right.
You're in trial at least once a week, usually twice a week. And it's all about working a case up, preparing for trial, calling witnesses, and presenting a case to a jury. And that there's always something to learn in a trial. Mm-hmm. And it's over the course of your tenure as a prosecutor, you can usually amass several fold the number of trials you could as just a private practice attorney.
Okay.
Just because you're in the courthouse anyway. You don't have to travel. You don't have to worry about business in different counties. You're assigned to a court. Yep. And you're there to try cases. You're not there for the salary. You're there to get trial experience.
Okay.
And to make a change in the community. Mm-hmm. And at some point, you desire, hey, I could actually get paid a little bit more for doing what I do. Yeah. And you have the option, I guess, at any point, but you have that decision. I think that most people in the DA's office have. Do I want to monetize my skill, or do I want to continue being part of the rank and file of the district attorney's office? Yeah. And that there's meritorious and reasonable explanations for choosing either of those two paths.
Yeah. You're either putting bad guys in jail or you're helping get innocent people off of bad convict. You know what I mean? So,
you work. Everybody's working in the system. Yeah. It's just what role, what cog are you going to be in that system? Yeah. What role are you going to play? Did
you know as a kid that the lawyer role was what you wanted to do?
Well, I was kind of raised with an expectation of you are going to college and if preferable you're going to go to professional school. I was a philosophy major, so
is it for your bachelor's?
Undergrad was a philosophy degree, so I could either be a bartender, or work in a liquor store, which I did. I was a liquor store manager while I was in college. Nice, great job. Or I could be a professional philosophy instructor, or I could do something that kind of suited my English, history, liberal arts type mindset. Yeah, and that was law. So I took the LSAT, which has nothing to do with practicing law or law school. Right.
We had some prosecutors on here. One of your friends,
I saw William.
Yeah, William and Jessica, and we were discussing the LSAT and
it's
how,
a clearinghouse.
Yeah,
that's all it is. It's a filter you have to pass through to get into law school, and depending on how well you do on the LSAT, I guess depends on where you can get admitted.
Yeah. I learned everything I need to know about the LSAT from Legally Blonde.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So
I don't look as ravishing as Elle Woods floating in a pool.
And, right.
You know, it's not my look.
It's a great movie, though.
I doubt I could get into Harvard Law.
Yeah, I was laughing because I remembered her score. She got like a 179.
179.
Yeah, and
it's very lofty.
And that's it. That's what they were saying. They're like, I didn't get a 179.
Right.
I was like, well, that's why you're a prosecutor. You know, that's just the defense attorneys. They get higher scores than you. So.
Well, you know, the thing with trial lawyers, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but you do have to be the most charming person in the room because you're communicating with jurors.
Yeah.
You know, and abstract, intellectual, you know, pie in the sky talking points are great for civil attorneys. You know, they can sit in their little office in their cubicles and bill billable hours.
Yeah.
They're not communicating with people.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the thing. I've always been kind of a talker. So
makes good for an attorney.
Right. So being able to communicate well with others, and just establishing a rapport.
Yeah.
Those are kind of, you know, basic elements in a trial attorney's toolbox, and just being able to connect with people. And you know, when you're given the choice between a dry contractual matter, you know, with, well, we have these signatures and, you know, we can't really be sure if they're authentic and we have this business dispute, or do you want to try a case where there's people smoking dope and, you know, one of them's the witness to the case and you have to get them bench warranted back from TDC to testify, and
right,
you know, it's a more entertaining trial than a dry civil matter.
Yes.
The things that people do are
So for those out there wondering and trying to, there's maybe you can call it a philosophical difference between prosecution and defense. Everybody's entitled to a defense. So explain exactly what it is you do, if you can, and your reasoning for wanting to be a defense attorney.
Okay, sure. Well, I think part of the reason for being a defense attorney is you get to really serve your fellow man, and kind of pull people out of the hot grease. You know, prosecutors, officers, defense attorneys, criminal court judges, we're all in business because people don't make the best decisions. And in their time of need, someone has to be there to stand up and ensure that their rights are protected. Our system that we have, and this is how I looked at it when I was a prosecutor, it's a job.
Yeah.
You know, an officer presents evidence that he collects or she collects, believes there's probable cause to file a case, make an arrest. It gets turned over to the DA's office. The intake department either accepts it or rejects it. If it's accepted, it goes into, you know, the prosecutor system, assigned to one of the courts. One of the prosecutors in those courts gets the case, works it up, looks at it, determines how are we going to resolve this dispute that we have. The defense attorney gets involved, and there's a meeting of the minds 95% of the time where the state and the defense work out some sort of agreement, and that's presented to the court, and the court usually follows those agreements. The other probably 3 to 5% of the time is when, you know, there's not an agreement, there's not a meeting of the minds, and those cases go to trial. And more often than not, they're put in the hands of a jury, and the jury decides what happened. I mean, a courtroom is a place to resolve factual disputes.
Right. Not the side of the road.
Well, you know.
Sorry, that's the cop in me coming out.
No, it's fine. That's a fair observation. Yeah, I tell people, you know, routinely, I was like, you know, just identify yourself and get out of the car. You know, if you don't get out of the car, they will assist you out of the car.
Yes.
And, you know, things can turn south really quickly, but there's a time and a place. If you want to contest something, do it in the courtroom, not on the roadside. Yep. That's not going to be a winning proposition for you. But again, we're in business because people don't make the best decisions.
Right.
But defense attorneys and prosecutors, I see it, we're two sides of the same coin. The prosecutor's job is not to seek convictions, but to ensure justice. I don't believe, after 2 decades of practicing criminal law, I don't believe officers have an agenda. I don't think they're out to sell people down the river. I mean, I don't think that's the case.
In
Globally.
Yes, for the majority of them. Because there have been proven cases, and I'm the first one to say, like, listen, we are not 100% pure. There's been some, I hate the term bad eggs or bad apples to explain police work, but there have been cases where asshole cops have lost sight of whatever it is they are, and that's exactly what they were chasing. They were chasing numbers, chasing making themselves look really good, planting evidence, doing dumb shit like that. So I want people out there to understand that I'm gonna call myself a good cop. Us good cops, we hate those guys just as much as you do, and we're trying to get them out there. But I don't want to pretend like they don't exist, because they're out there, and my job is to weed them out.
They're the outliers.
They're the outliers. Exceptions. Yes, exactly.
They are not the rule. They are the absolute exception to the rule, and it's such an infinitesimal amount of cases that are handled and processed on a daily basis that it's almost, from a scientific perspective, it's almost a non-reportable number.
Yeah.
So in the grand scheme of things. But you don't hear about all the wonderful things that officers do on the side of the road. You just hear the officer, deviated from his training and did X, Y, and Z and infringed upon someone's civil rights. When, again, the vast majority of officers do not operate within that spectrum.
Or unintentionally.
Right.
A lot of times I'll say, there may have been a civil right violation, not like crazy civil right, like just, illegal detention or something like that. They weren't intending to do that. They honestly thought they had something, and they didn't. But that's where you guys come in. Like, look.
Well, it is. Yeah. And client comes in and hires a defense attorney and gives them either the truth or a version of the truth of what happened. Yeah. And, we can't change people's realities.
Right.
But they give, the defense attorney their recitation of what occurred. And then at some point, when we meet with the prosecutors, we get a copy of the case file. And nowadays, there's a video usually of almost every police transaction with a citizen. And, that's what happened. It's not an interpretation. It's the actual, here's what happened in the case.
Yeah.
And based on the evidence review and the discussions with the prosecutors, we look to see if there's any sort of grounds for agreement. How can we resolve this? And these court dates that we have, that's an occasion to sit down and talk to the prosecutor and say, okay, here's our issues. Here are your issues. What are we going to do about this case? And, I think statistically, more than 95% of the cases that are put through the criminal justice system, they're plea agreements.
Yeah.
So it's not like the defense attorney is trying to get somebody off. In fact, it's just the opposite. Officer, you made the right decision. You were exactly correct. This defendant committed an offense. We're going to do something about it. He's going to be put on probation, or he's going to be put in jail, or if it's a felony, he's going to go to TDC or get felony probation. Or there's going to be some sort of punishment attached to your decision to arrest based on his actions or inactions.
Okay. Let me, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I did my master's degree in criminology and criminal justice. Mm-hmm. My bachelor's is also in a similar, because I love what I do. Yeah. So whether people think it's a useless degree, like maybe philosophy or anything like that, but it goes in line with what I do, and I don't plan on ever doing anything different. So I really like that side. So one of the things that was pointed out, especially in our law classes and things, is the systemic racism in the criminal justice system, and it usually comes around during sentencing. So you brought up the point about plea agreements and stuff like that. In your experience, have you seen a disproportionate, inconsistent judgment passed on blacks versus whites versus, Hispanics versus guys versus girls? Have you seen that, or has there been so much, this is my experience, there's been so much talked about that because it probably was disproportionate back in the 80s, 90s. Right. I think there's been so much light brought to that issue that people may not have been aware of, that now that's not, I'm actually seeing like a reverse. What's it been for you?
I haven't seen what has been described as systemic racism in the last 2 decades.
Okay.
Throughout the state of Texas, practicing law in the criminal courthouse. I do observe that when you walk through the hallways of some of the courthouses, you see maybe a higher percentage of African Americans than you'd see Caucasians or Hispanics. I don't know if I can't attribute that to, well, we're singling this demographic out. I personally have not seen what has been labeled as systemic racism. Now, I'm not disputing that it doesn't exist, and I'm certainly not advocating for overriding someone's feelings. That they may have been oppressed or subjected to systemic racism. I'm not saying that at all. I just personally haven't seen it.
Okay. I'm just curious because me personally, what I've noticed, what it seems to me, because I'm not in the court for judgment all the time, but it seems like there's been so much attention brought to it in the last 20 years,
right?
That it's almost like a point for judges these days and even prosecutors when they're looking for plea agreements and stuff like that to make sure that that's not happening. And that's a good thing. I love it. I'm just curious, as a person that did the defense and the prosecution side, was that something in your head when you're trying to make an agreement for your client, or when you're, as a prosecutor, you're trying to, like, all right, this is fair. What's the decision-making process in that? I guess that's what I'm really getting to.
Well, it's more of a holistic approach. I think from my end anyway, I'm just speaking for myself. It's more of a holistic approach, and there's not a lid for every pot. Every case is different. Every citizen accused of crime is different.
Mm-hmm.
And there are different parameters in which that citizen lives. So your defendant from Como or Stop 6 is going to have a different surrounding, different environment than your Keller soccer mom.
Yeah. Okay? Yeah. So for those listening that don't know what Como and Stop 6, these are very low economic, crime-ridden, high crime areas versus, some of the more like Keller or whatever that's predominantly white, middle class to upper class type areas. So,
well, and when you're negotiating with prosecutors, you're trying to reach some sort of reasonable agreement, if one can be reached, you have to take into consideration the supporting factors, because no one really wants to set someone up for failure.
Right.
So the person who's not able to attend probation and report on a monthly basis, someone who's going to have a problem passing a UA test every month, show a clean urine screen for street drugs or non-prescribed prescription medication, someone who's not going to follow the rules of probation, you don't want to set that person up for failure because they just don't have the internal or external support system to be successful and complete what they're willing to undertake. Whereas someone in a different set of circumstances, probation would be a breeze. So there are individual environmental factors that you take into consideration. Something we run into a lot is immigration consequences.
Okay.
Class A misdemeanors, crimes of moral turpitude, your theft, your prostitution, any sort of felony offense. Those can trigger immigration consequences where you can be removed or subject to denial of naturalization, and those are real consequences that people suffer. And those are things really that the prosecutors don't take into consideration, is because it's a coincidental factor. It's not tied into the details of the case, and it's not something really that defense attorneys can take into consideration, because we're looking more at the details of the case. And an immigration issue is something that the federal government takes up.
Yeah.
So our focus generally is what's within the confines of the case evidence. Now, if we're looking at resolving a case and you have negative, adverse immigration consequences, that is your circumstance. And if you're instructing us as your defense attorneys to try this case purely because of immigration consequences or some other external factor instead of the case evidence, that's the client's decision to make. And, the attorney's kind of obligated to follow the client's instructions as far as the disposition of the case.
Okay.
But, lawyers generally just don't rush into, a courtroom saying, we're trying this because he's got negative immigration consequences for their own benefit. It's something that the client drives. That's something we really see a lot, is growing is immigration consequences relating to criminal offenses.
Okay, so
long answer.
Sorry. So no, it's fine. So with the immigration consequences, are they talking about deportation? Like,
I think there's more talk than action.
Okay.
Certainly with the felonies, there's a lot more action than talk.
Yeah.
But and I don't pretend to know what Immigration and Customs Enforcement decides, but just as an example, we've had a guy who I'm starting to tell war stories now.
That's okay.
We had a guy,
people love it,
he was charged with the DWI, and then he had drug paraphernalia in his car. So, which is a Class C misdemeanor. It's a ticket. You pay your $200 and don't get a ticket for the next 6 months, and the case gets dismissed.
Yeah.
Right? And, dismissals are good things, traditionally. Well, he was good for the DWI. I mean, it was a clear-cut case. So we pled him to the DWI. He did not have any immigration consequences relating to his Class A misdemeanor DWI offense.
Yeah.
But his immigration lawyer told us he cannot take any sort of probation on his drug paraphernalia charge because the feds are going to treat it very harshly.
Yeah.
So we had to work something out where he just got his drug paraphernalia case dismissed without any sort of probation or fine. And I can't wrap my mind around the fact why the federal government would treat a Class C misdemeanor more harshly than a Class A misdemeanor, which is a higher level offense.
Yeah.
But that's how they categorize it.
It's the lack of discretion on their part.
It's
think?
How they write the rules.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed that, I'm still in the military. I'm a cop for the military as well. So seeing the UCMJ, which is what our laws are for the military, and the punishments are federally mandated anyway. But like, yes, there's no you're convicted 5 years. You'll if you have a year and a half, 2 years of good behavior, you could possibly get out on probation type thing. Like theirs is like you will do it like 4 years of the 5 or whatever it is. Like it's very set in stone, the discretion that the Fed side has compared to your guy, the state side. Like why is it that? I don't get that.
It's just how the rules are written.
Yeah.
When you're sentenced to a term of confinement in the pen, they look at you for a non-aggravated case when you've done 25% of your time, less than any good time. Yeah. That doesn't mean you're going to make parole, but I mean, they'll consider you. And they could, that's the ceiling. They can hit you before then.
Yeah.
But again, that doesn't mean you're going to make it on an aggravated offense. You got to do half before you're even considered for parole.
Yeah.
So, if you get a low number on an aggravated case, you're probably more likely to do that full term, even though you only have to spend half. I've got a guy sitting in the pen out in West Texas, out in the Panhandle. He shot his wife point blank range with a judge revolver.
Oh yeah.
She didn't know what day of the week it is. She didn't know her own name.
Oh, she survived it.
She survived. She's got birdshot all in her brain.
Okay.
It was up in Fannin County, up in Bonham, and DA offered 40 years, asked for 40 years, and we got him 5 at trial from the jury, which is the minimum for a first-degree felony offense.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at him the other day on TDCJ Inmate Locator.
Yeah.
And they've got his projected date in 2023. So he's probably going to do the full 5 years, even though he was eligible 10 months ago for parole.
Dang.
So
that's crazy. The judge is a badass gun too, by the way. For those that don't know, it's a revolver that can shoot both like shotgun shell shots and regular bullets.
It'll ruin your day.
Yeah, it will. I don't recommend it for a home defense weapon. I don't. It's a 410 shot. It's not going to stop anybody. So, especially if you're all stressed out. So anyway, I go down rabbit holes. Okay. So now let's bring up the cons that people throw out there about defense attorneys. Okay. I'll give a current example. Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Saul Goodman. I love it. I love that show. The best writers, because I watched Breaking Bad as well.
Right.
So watching that and then watching Better Call Saul I loved it. But that's kind of the approach people will have towards defense attorneys. Is they're just trying to get bad guys off all the time and stuff like that. And me, we'll go the police route. I've been to trial, and, you know, I've got a prosecutor up there asking me, you know, what steps I took. He's making sure I followed all the rules, and he's I don't want to say he's guiding me, but he's guiding me down a logical path of why I did what I did. And then you people get up there, and people get up there, and then it's just like character assassination. And some of y'all are terrible at it, which is fine. And then the police do very well up there. Some of y'all are amazing, and even got me questioning myself. I'm like, maybe I do have some, like, maybe I'm a bully. What's wrong with me?
That's good lawyering, right?
Yeah, right. When you start questioning yourself, I'm like, wait, maybe I am a bad guy. What's wrong with me? And I leave, and prosecutor's just shaking his head like, don't worry about it. We'll get the next one, you know. And I still get, most of the time, they're still found guilty or whatever it is, but now I look like a douchebag because some defense. So anyway, what's your view on that, sir? Help us understand.
All right. Well, I've kind of seen an indoctrination with folks coming out of the academy, you know, and everybody's an idealist, and everybody wants to do the right thing and make the positive changes in the community. Yeah. And I've never been through the police academy, but these are just my observations.
Okay. Outside looking in, I like it.
Yeah, it's just outside the fishbowl. It seems that when you have a younger officer who's eager and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, you know, they'll have that sense of, you know, they're the enemy. They're there to discredit me. Yeah. They're there to make me look like a liar or incompetent, or they're just trying to get this guy off. And that's really not the case. And something I've kind of noticed in my own practice is when you beat up the cop on the witness stand, juries don't like that, because officers, especially in the last 20 years since September 11th, officers have been put on a pedestal as first responders, as heroes, as people who rush in when everyone's running out. Yeah. And people who keep our community safe. And if I'm just beating somebody up just to beat somebody up, that's not going to affect me. It's going to affect the guy who's sitting next to me. Okay. The person I'm representing. Because that's who the jury's going to take it out on, not me. You know, some folks, some witnesses need to be called out for their mistakes. Sometimes they're intentional. Sometimes they're just honest mistakes. But again, a courtroom, I've already touched on this, it's a place to resolve factual disputes. So when you have an officer who is willing to come in, testify, make reasonable concessions, admit the things that were done incorrectly, he builds credibility with the jury. And it also takes the sting away from any sort of cross-examination that a defense attorney can bring, because the wind has already been kind of taken out of our sails. Yeah. You know, the purpose, again, is to resolve a dispute. We have a dispute with the state of Texas as to what happened. And through the process, we're not trying to prove that you're innocent. We're just trying to establish, is there reasonable doubt? Can the state prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt? Because the instructions to the jury say, jurors, if you have a reasonable doubt regarding the defendant's guilt, you must say by your verdict, not guilty, and acquit the defendant. Those are the parameters in which we operate. And like I said earlier, it's a job. Prosecutor's office is tasked with presenting a case if they deem it worthy. Yeah. A defense attorney's job is to challenge the evidence. Now, if we don't do our job and stand up and make objections when the jury's rolling their eyes and saying, God, I want this guy, just let it go. If we don't make objections and if we don't make arguments, what can happen is that conviction, if it comes back as a conviction, could be overturned. Yeah. Because the lawyer, the defense attorney working the case, was ineffective. He didn't do his job. Yeah. And then all the work that the officer put in on the side of the road, everything he did for his investigation, all the work that the prosecutor's office did, all the work that the DA's investigator put in, all the time that the jury spent listening to the evidence and deliberating the evidence and resolving the case with their verdict, that can all be overturned by a court saying, you know, the defense attorney didn't do his job, and it was to the detriment of the defendant. And that case gets overturned, and you have to start all over again. Yeah. So when there's a motion for new trial because the lawyer didn't do his job that's filed with the court, the star witness for the prosecutors is the defense attorney who worked the case. And the prosecutor's saying, okay, Mr. Bolton, what did you do in this case? Did you have this discussion? Did you have that discussion? Did you go through the evidence? Did you make these objections at trial? And we are called as witnesses to bolster and support the underlying result at the court the first time the case went through.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So we're not that we're working together, but we are all working together.
I gotcha.
To effectuate a disposition of a case.
Okay.
Either through agreement or through a trial. And the prosecutors and the defense attorneys have the best grasp on the facts of the case.
Yeah.
And if they reach an agreement, that case is presented to the judge to sign off on.
Yeah.
If they can't reach an agreement, we have a trial.
So is it fair to say you may know that your client is guilty of something, but because a plea agreement couldn't be reached, now you're going to trial.
Right.
And what is that like for you? Let's say it's a serious case. Let's say,
sometimes you're trying to beat the offer.
Yeah, let's say it's a DWI manslaughter thing.
Okay.
They get in an accident, somebody's killed or seriously injured. Your guy's guilty, but you couldn't reach a plea deal, anything like that. What's the process for you from there?
You proceed how the client instructs you to proceed. That's your ethical duty as an attorney. And if the attorney wants to go to trial, then it's, let's suit up and go to war. And sometimes you walk into cases knowing, this is not going. We're storming the hill with a knife and a fork.
Okay.
And they're firing machine guns back at us.
Yeah.
It's going to be glorious. It's going to be a tragic defeat, but goodness, it's going to be glorious.
Okay. That's interesting.
And it's a client's instructions.
Yeah.
And I've stood in the hallways in front of courtrooms before we go into trial. There's a jury standing in the hall, and I tell them, hey, we're going to lose this case. I just want you to know that you do not. I can't predict the future, but I've done this long enough where I think a jury is going to find you guilty.
Yeah.
Based on the evidence, and the jury comes back with an acquittal. And I've told people the opposite. I think you need to have your head examined if you cut a plea to this. And the jury's come back with a guilty verdict. You can't predict what people are going to do,
right?
But it's just your best guess based on the evidence and based on how you've tried cases in the past. But it's ultimately the client's decision.
Okay.
So
okay.
If they want to proceed to trial, then they have that constitutional right, and that's what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a case that we believe that the state can prove, it's really not a matter of do we believe they're guilty. It's can the state prove their case?
Yeah.
Okay? And if they can, what's the punishment going to be? There are cases that, the guy who shot his wife in the head with a Judge revolver, they offered 60, and then at 40, they asked for 40 at trial. We took it to trial because I thought we could beat the offer.
Okay.
And I spent a week and a half in front of a jury up in Fannin County, and they were really torn. They were out longer than I thought they'd be, but they came back with a conviction. I think that was the reasonable choice for them based on the evidence. But when I got them 5 at punishment, that's where we won the case.
That's crazy.
Because 5 is a hell of a lot better than 40 or 60.
Are you allowed to talk about any of the circumstances of that case? Because that's
it's a public record.
That's amazing for that guy.
Was
it a temporary insanity type thing?
Nah, he and his wife were estranged.
Okay.
And it was Texas Rangers worked the case, and a very, very skilled, very knowledgeable Texas Ranger up in B Company worked that case and did a very thorough investigation. And I didn't really have any doubt that the offense occurred.
Yeah.
Of course, he had his story, and it's what he believed occurred. I'm sure it was an emotionally charged event.
Yeah.
Jury just saw it a different way than he did, but through the guilt innocence process of the trial, the actual case evidence, I think there was enough brought to light for the jury to consider giving him the minimum under the law when it came time for sentencing.
Okay.
So, and that the ranger that worked the case, I've got another case with him up there currently. It's kind of a suicide by cop type situation. And they're offering him 40 years too. That's the number up there. It seems like 40 years for everybody in Fannin County.
So they're charging the police officer?
No, they're charging this defendant with aggravated assault public servant.
Oh, okay.
But it has the look and feel of a suicide by cop case.
Makes sense.
And the same ranger worked that one, that investigation as well. And he's going to do a very thorough job. And we'll see if there's an agreement that can be reached. But they're going to have this ridiculous number.
Yeah.
What we perceive to be ridiculous. And looking at the evidence, we think... the client and I think that we can beat the offer. And
gotcha.
We may wind up not trying the case. We may go straight to the judge, and let the judge decide the appropriate sentence.
Yeah,
because that guy was in a bad place that night, and I don't think a TDC sentence is appropriate for that guy.
Okay.
It's unexcusable for some of the actions that were undertaken, but I think the underlying issue is something that really needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Because it has, just looking at the evidence, it looks like this guy was trying to get shot down.
Okay.
But, can we get another war story?
Always. They're fun.
I had a Dallas police officer. He was off duty. It was St. Patrick's Day back in 2008, 2009. He was off duty. He was at an officer party, a bunch of just DPD officers, and he was leaving a party and had his best friend and his girlfriend were in the back seat of his car, and she was not wearing her seatbelt. She was reclined. She was in the right rear passenger seat. She was reclined with her head in the left rear passenger seat.
Oh.
Okay. Pulled out in front of traffic, got T-boned. And because she was laying down, her spine just compressed. Just compressed. And she wound up being a quadriplegic, and it was a horrible injury.
Yeah.
He was a .17 alcohol concentration.
Yeah.
And the jury never heard about the blood test. Never heard it. I kept it out of evidence. And she couldn't make the trip. The young lady whose life was just shattered.
Yeah.
We had to fly out to Phoenix. The prosecutor and I and a court reporter had to fly out to Phoenix where her family lived, and we had to do a deposition.
Yeah.
And the jury never saw her interview.
How does that happen?
She wasn't able to, under the rules of evidence, to be a witness, you have to be able to assist the finder of fact resolve a factual issue. She had nothing to contribute. She didn't know her name. She didn't know the day of the week.
Oh, okay.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
But the only reason the state wanted to put that video in front of the jury
sympathy
was to inflame their passions and make them angry.
Yeah.
And angry people don't make reasonable decisions.
So how did the officer's alcohol level not get brought into evidence?
I outlawed the prosecutor. I, through years of working in the criminal courthouse, you get to know the guys, you get to know the officers, you get to know the jailers, and the folks that I relied on to testify as witnesses when I was a prosecutor, that I'm cross-examining on a routine basis. As a defense attorney, you get a working relationship with these folks, and we called the jailers in, and the guy who ran the intoxicology room where they were doing the blood test. It was brought out that the room, the actual blood draw room, hadn't been cleaned in over 24 hours. There was trash piled up off the floor, out of the trash can onto the floor.
Because there's standards that have
standards.
to be state standards and stuff that have to be met.
Well, the transportation code requires that blood be drawn in a sanitary place. And I had several witnesses from the police department saying I wouldn't qualify this as a sanitary place.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't qualify any jail as a sanitary place. I've been in
there were some corners cut, and it was violative of what the transportation code requires for a blood draw.
Okay.
So we had a hearing outside the presence of the jury, and the judge, restricted the blood from coming in. The jury never knew about the .17 alcohol concentration.
Holy shit!
And
smooth.
Well,
it's a slick move.
It's not. Well, it's not a slick move.
No,
it was legal maneuvering.
Yes,
that fit within the rules of procedure and the rules of evidence.
Yeah, and the thing that I'll tell people that because the first thing they're gonna look at is like, oh, you hope to get a cop off. Like,
well, I didn't really.
Right,
in the long run.
But what I'm saying is, the way that I look at any time something like that occurs where you outlawyered your guy, what you did do was you just improved how that jail and how those police are going to handle the next DWI.
Well, I kind of ruined it for everyone after me.
Right.
The whole policy was rewritten after
Jeff
got off that charge.
So typically, like, I know any time that I have screwed up a case, because it's happened, especially in my younger rookie years, because you're learning to process the job, what attorneys are looking for, what detectives are looking for. So you sometimes you screw the pooch. It's just how it happens. And every time I've screwed the pooch, I've become a better officer, detective, trial person because of it. So something like that, I try to get people to look at. I'm like, look, okay, so this happened. This guy did this, but now the process will be that much better the next time all of those people do a DWI, blood draw, or anything to that nature. So I try to look for the silver. I'm a glass half full guy. I look at the silver lining no matter what happens. But
during the course of this case, the standardized field sobriety testing that was done on the roadside, there were some corners cut. And I was able to bring out you deviated from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration standards.
Okay. And this is your bread and butter, right?
Right. This is
DWIs.
So it's you break out the NHTSA manual, which is the Bible for DWI officers. And you point out all the things that were done incorrectly, and you had to demonstrate by 100% proficiency to get your certification out of the academy. But out here on the side of the road, you're cutting corners and you're kind of cowboying it.
Yeah.
And that's a double standard because you're expecting my guy to perform flawlessly, but you're able to cut corners during the course of your investigation. Juries don't like double standards.
Yeah.
And the person who T-boned Jeff, just reviewing the evidence, looking at the photos, and I hired an accident investigator, Joe Montgomery. He's since deceased, but he's worked a lot of cases, and we were going through the photos in the vehicle that hit Jeff, that T-boned him. He looked at the front of the truck. It was a big half-ton Dodge pickup. He's like, his lights weren't on.
So he never saw him.
Right. It was dark. It was 2:00 in the morning. He says, lights weren't on. I said, how do you know? He said, there wasn't a spackling inside the reflector of the headlights. He said, those lights were off. He said, when they're on and they're hot and they shatter, you get that spackling back on the reflector. He said, it's not there. I doubt an officer took out Windex and wiped it clean.
Right.
Those lights weren't on. And I had my investigator go out and interview the driver. He's like, well, I had taken some sleeping medication. I had been at a quinceañera earlier in the evening. I'd been drinking. Officers never even interviewed the guy.
Wow.
And he was driving this half-ton missile.
Yeah.
Down the street with no lights on.
Right.
And my guy pulled out in front of him.
Dang.
Now, granted, he was twice the legal limit.
Right.
It was two ships passing in the night that shouldn't have run into each other that did.
Yeah.
And the jury was out. It was a week and a half, almost 2-week trial. The jury was out for 4 or 5 days. They couldn't reach a decision.
Yeah.
The judge was about to call a mistrial. And they were 11-1 voting not guilty, walking into the jury room. There was one holdout that was voting for a conviction.
Really?
For 4 or 5 days. It was 11-1 our favor. And before the judge declared a mistrial, where we'd have to retry the case, we cut a plea for deferred adjudication. He was on felony probation for 8 years, and he lived it out successfully.
Okay.
Didn't have any violations.
Was he able to stay in police work?
He got out of police work.
I figured.
But the right thing kind of worked out. There was some justice for the family because he accepted responsibility.
Yeah.
We didn't want to run the risk of having a new trial and have that blood test come into evidence.
Come back in.
Because the prosecutors can maybe, tidy up the ship a little bit and let that blood come in. And, maybe the interview would come in. We didn't want to take those chances. So we resolved the case through an agreement with the prosecutors that the judge approved. And he completed his probation successfully, and his cases have been dismissed because he's been discharged from probation.
Nice.
So I mean, he walked an 8-year felony probation successfully. And,
awesome.
and the system worked.
Yeah. Since I didn't know before you get in here that you're DWI specialist, so how familiar have you seen the Alan West thing?
Well, okay, let me preface this. I'm not a DWI specialist. There's an actual specialization that's recognized by the State Bar of Texas.
Okay.
It's put on by the National College of DUI Defense. There are actual DWI specialists.
Oh, okay.
I cannot advocate myself as being one.
All right.
So just with that,
but you're
disclaimer,
good. You're really good at them.
It's been the bread and butter for a lot of criminal defense attorneys. The reason why, I think it's because it's a subjective. It's really the only crime that's prosecuted in the state of Texas that's based on the opinion of another individual.
Okay.
And Angela West case ties right into that perfectly. I know you've seen a lot of DWI arrest videos. I'm sure you've conducted your share of investigations.
Yep.
I've watched plenty of videos. I mean, if I were the arresting officer, I would have taken her into custody.
Okay.
Without any hesitation.
Yeah.
That video that was released looks just like the other several hundred active DWI videos I've got with cases all over Texas. Yeah. Her driving was, suspect. There was some disorientation. The field sobriety test, even though they weren't really administered in the best manner, the results were, I think, compelling.
Yeah.
And again, this is, if people have this misconception about DWI lawyers or just defense lawyers in general, the officer has to make a split-second decision out there based on the information they have and based on their training and experience. And I think it would be foolish for the public to say, well, just let her go.
With a child, an infant in the car.
That?
Yeah.
You want the officer to err on the side of safety, remove a potentially hazardous situation from the road, and let the system sort it out. And that's exactly what happened.
The system found there was nothing in her system.
They rejected the case, as they probably should have.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the right decision. Yeah. But I don't fault the officer for making that arrest.
Nope.
I think it would be just asinine for us to expect her to release Miss West when the officer doesn't have a toxicology report. The officer says, okay, I've got this training, I've got this experience, here's my observations. This could really be a problem. I'm going to take her into custody. Bravo.
Yeah. And then with the PBT, the portable breathalyzer test, it wasn't done properly. She wasn't giving a continuous break. Those things, like, you got, for those that don't know, you have to keep blowing and blowing and blowing, and then finally it'll register.
Right. After you get some alveolar air from your lungs, it'll register. You don't want mouth alcohol. You want deep lung alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. So
but it's not going to register non-prescribed prescription medication or Sudafed or OxyContin. PBT is not going to register anything else other than alcohol. So maybe it's not an alcohol case. Maybe she's got something else on board.
Right. And this is perfectly logical assumption to have when you're trying to figure out all these other factors. And then, as well as I do, we've seen people avoid PBTs the best they can by, they're like this far away.
Right.
I'm trying. I don't understand and I'm not saying she was doing that. I don't think she was. I think she did. I think she was really trying to be accommodating. I think she did everything she could. It was a perfect storm of, I'm trying to think of the right word. Perfect storm of evidence, if you will, of, like you said, she was driving over the line, typical. Normally now these days I attribute that to being on your phone. Like a lot of times,
goodness.
So I got to make the stop just to make sure. Okay, well, now there's a child in here, and that changes everything.
The whole dynamic.
That changes the whole dynamic. Having a child in there. So I am glad everything worked out the way it did.
Sure. It worked out as it should have.
I want, that officer can't jump online and defend herself. And I want people to hear from somebody. I consider myself reasonable, that I look at it, you as a DWI who's defended and probably prosecuted DWIs, hundreds, can get on and say, like, look, these were the factors. This is why it's reasonable. And I'm not saying right, wrong, whatever. It's just reasonable. That's all that matters. Was it reasonable? Yes, we erred on the side of caution. And I think that officer, you know, because let's face it, had she not, now what are the people are going to say? If that video would have got out, they'd be like, oh, they just did that because it's Alan West's wife. Oh, They just did that, you know, that's, you know, the elite getting off again. It wasn't going to win either way. And then if she had gotten in an accident with that child later on, who's liable?
The outcry for that would be
yeah. So, so I'm going to lean with the officer on this one. I think she did the right thing.
Well, I'm not armchair quarterbacking.
No, not at all.
I mean, I think her decision to arrest was reasonable based on her training and experience.
Yeah.
And the system kicked the case out, and that was the right thing, and she can get that arrest expunged from her record.
Yep.
So the lawful effect of an expunction is that it never occurred.
Yeah, and for people, you know, well, her reputation, I can guarantee you Joe Blow citizen out on the street isn't going to get all that recanting on the media and stuff like that. But okay, like Alan West is a big name, and he got everything he basically asked for. I don't think that officer deserves to be fired.
No.
And I don't think the chief needs to go kiss an ass or anything like that. You know, even an apology, I guess, like, I don't know that
apologize for doing your job.
I wouldn't apologize for that.
I think it would be a disingenuous apology.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You don't really mean it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm uttering those words. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It'd be disingenuous. I can't fault the officer for making that arrest.
Yeah, I'm with you. Anyway, I just curious about your perspective on that, and I haven't had an opportunity to talk about it because I try to stay on topic as best I can, but that kind of fits. So, all right, sir. So your bread and butter, you said, was you were good with the DWIs. Anything else that you're really proud of as far as your...
Well, DWIs have kind of gone by the wayside for some reason. I want to attribute it to
Uber.
Lyft or Uber.
Yeah.
But, you know, you go out on the weekends and restaurants are, you know, the parking lots are full.
Yeah.
You go to the bars, the parking lots are full. And, you know, it's not Uber drivers waiting on patrons. Those are personal vehicles.
Yeah.
So people are out drinking and having a good time and going out and entertaining themselves.
At least in Texas they are.
Well, yeah. They're getting in their car and they're driving home.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's attributable to Lyft or Uber.
Less proactive police too.
Well,
I'll tell you that from my experience, we are less proactive.
Right.
And I think rightfully so. Everybody's out to dox an officer, and, you know, like, you damned if you do, damned if you don't. Look at the prime example. Look at the West case we're just talking about. That officer just went through the ringer, and she's probably still going through it. Like, who knows what's going to happen with that? So she's doing her job.
Sure.
And she's still getting crucified for it. Right. So
you can't win.
You can't win. So I would say that is a factor. I'm not going to say it's a main factor, but I think it's a factor.
Well, it's the net isn't being thrown out with the same frequency it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's, you know, the old adage of adapt or die. There are lawyers that exclusively stick with DWI, and I know their practice has shrunk. Their caseload has shrunk because they haven't branched out. They haven't gone into other counties. There are people that don't do anything other than Tarrant County.
Yeah. Well, they need cool commercials.
Well, yeah. But if your phone doesn't ring, are you just going to sit there, and are you going to adapt?
We got to start chasing ambulances.
Well, you know, send flowers. Right. You know, you don't want to solicit business, but you can send flowers and have them call you. Thank you for the flowers. Yeah. By the way, I was injured in an accident.
Is that how you got to do it? That's funny.
I don't know. That's civil law. I remember there was my law partner, Richard. He said he grew up down here. He said there's a civil attorney who always sent flowers to people who were in the hospital for car crashes, and, you know, we're thinking of you. He wasn't soliciting business. He was just sending flowers.
And they're like, oh, that's so thoughtful.
Yeah, I think I'll call this guy. He's a really nice guy.
Smart. So, okay, you're bringing up civil. I have that written down too. Because one of the cases that stick out in my head is the OJ case. So OJ was found not guilty criminally, right?
He was.
But civilly, he got hammered.
Right.
I think they only ever paid out like $1 million at most, but he lost like in the civil court like 30 million or plus, whatever that was. So for the lay out there, can you explain the difference between those two?
Sure. Well, in a criminal case, the burden of proof is always on the state. The state of Texas has the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt with rational, reasonable, believable evidence that someone committed an offense.
Yeah.
And the burden of proof, that's the highest burden of proof in our justice system. Okay, you don't have to be, it's not beyond all doubt, but you have to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt, whatever it is to the juror of what that definition is. Something short of beyond all doubt, but it's certainly a high standard.
Yeah.
And if the jury believes that evidence beyond a reasonable doubt to the highest standard in our criminal justice system, then the state's entitled to a conviction under the law. They're entitled to it. Okay. And if there's a reasonable doubt, A is one, there's one reasonable doubt regarding the defendant's guilt, then the jury must acquit the defendant. In a civil case, you're not looking at proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay. It's preponderance of the evidence, which, if you picture the scales of justice, is it more likely than not? If the scales tip ever so slightly in the plaintiff's favor, the person bringing the charge, then the plaintiff is able to recover money.
Gotcha.
So you're suing for damages and financial damages. Yeah. So if you can prove it's more likely than not that an individual committed an offense or committed an act, not really an offense, but committed an act, and someone suffered harm because of that act, then you can recover millions of dollars.
Okay.
So it's the same evidence, though. He cut up Nicole Brown and her boyfriend.
Yeah.
In the criminal court, because the state of California didn't prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, he was entitled to an acquittal. But the same evidence through a lower standard, okay, he was found to be liable for wrongful death, which is basically the civil definition of murder.
Right.
You did something that caused the death of another individual wrongfully.
Yeah.
So you owe the family millions of dollars.
So,
good luck collecting.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do people get around that? It seems like that is a common thing. Like, you get entitled to all this money, you go after them civilly, and then it ends up being a waste of your time.
That's outside of my...
Is it?
Yeah, it's not my circus, not my monkeys.
I was just curious how that, like...
I could not speculate really with any sort of reasonable explanation as to how the civil system works.
Okay.
I'm a one-trick pony. I'm a criminal lawyer.
Okay.
I can talk general concepts, but specifics of how people avoid paying judgments.
So it's a good segue.
Creativeness.
It's a good segue because you are running to be a judge.
I am.
Okay. So you being a judge, are you going to be a criminal judge?
It's for a criminal court. It's
criminal
County Court number 9.
Okay.
We've had Judge Brent Carr. He's been the judge of County Court number 9 for over 30 years. He was sworn in 91, and he's been a wonderful public servant. But after 31 fun-filled years, he's hanging it up. He's retiring.
Okay.
And it's an open bench.
Okay.
So it's an opportunity. The pinnacle of I think most any lawyer is to be an elected judge.
Yeah. It's so weird to me being elected. I always thought judges just like I just thought like you apply for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, in some cases, if there's a vacancy, you can apply for a position through the commissioner's court, and they can appoint someone.
Yeah,
and then you have to run, and then the governor appoints. Cases.
You have to have a law degree.
Yes, sir.
You got to be an attorney.
You have to be an attorney for 4 years and be a licensed attorney in good standing with the state of Texas.
Because there are some judge positions where you don't.
JPs, you don't have to be a lawyer.
Yeah, that's weird.
Some courts at law, you don't have to be a licensed attorney.
Okay.
But it's either a constitutional court or a statutory court. Some you don't require a law license, and I had some family down in Southeast Texas, and the JPs down there, they're just, they fish. They didn't go to law school. They just they hunt and fish, and
that's awesome.
They do JP work a couple days in the week, they've never gone to college, yet alone law school. So
really, that blows my mind. But then again, I don't even know what a JP judge, I don't know what their scope is. Like, I don't know all the things. Like, all I can think of is you can go get married in front of them.
Evictions and small claims, and some criminal proceedings, and
so they can do some small, like Class C's and stuff.
Yeah, I've got hot checks and tickets and JP courts.
Okay.
So
okay, I was just curious about that. So you're going for the big dog. You're going for the cream of the crop when it comes to Judgitos, right?
Well, Judge Carr's been, like I said, he's been a wonderful public servant. I've got big shoes to fill.
Yeah,
but I'm a size 14, so
yeah, you're a big boy. I saw when you got out of your car. I was like, right. Oh shit. Right. Got a small room.
Well, it's they say the camera adds 10 pounds, so don't adjust your computer monitors.
I didn't mean big wide. I meant just a big dude.
I'll say it.
You're a football build, man.
Well, yeah, I think looking back, I probably could have gone back and played college ball, but just decisions you make. Yeah, everything worked out the way it should have. But
okay, so this show, I try not to. We don't get into the politics of things necessarily. However, most of the people that watch this, my primary source is all Tarrant County people. Right. So I am all about letting. I had Carolyn Gilmore on here. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she announced that she was running for something. I can't.
Up in Precinct 4.
Yeah, so she's doing something. I had Betsy Price on here. And she talked about how she was running for, I think, a judge position as well.
Betsy Price? She's running for county judge.
Judge.
Judge Whitley's retiring.
Yeah.
She's running against Tim O'Hare.
Okay. So is that, because she's not an attorney, right? Is that
Betsy?
one?
No, she was the former mayor.
Right.
A county judge is not a judge. They preside over the commissioner's court. They set budgets.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's
I just hear judge.
It's a title.
Yeah.
There's really no judging involved.
Okay.
Clay Jenkins in Dallas, who has opinions about mask mandates and just Dallas County operations, and that's the county judge.
Okay.
Judge Whitley over here in Tarrant County, his decisions are binding on the county. But
so
he presides over the commissioner's court.
How many people are you running against?
There's 4 in my race.
4?
Yes,
okay. William ain't one of them, is he?
No, he's running for a felony court.
Oh, okay. All right. So he's doing felony. So what would yours be?
Misdemeanor. It's a county criminal court. We'd have jurisdiction over misdemeanor offenses that are, punishable by up to a year in jail, up to a $4,000 fine.
Okay.
And these are not the bad things that people do. These are the kind of the dumb things that people do.
Gotcha.
Stealing from Target. Yes, the cameras work at Target, and they will capture you walking out the door with the things you didn't pay for.
Yep.
The DWIs, the first and second offense DWIs.
Yes.
Prostitution cases, assault cases where there's bodily injury, where someone says, ouch, that hurt.
Yeah.
That's a Class A assault. You're driving with a suspended license, your marijuana cases less than 4 ounces.
You're not getting those anymore.
Yeah,
it costs more money just to test the weed than it does to go through the CJ system. So
it's when I started 20 years ago, there were more criminal activity was prosecuted than it is now.
Yeah.
And from a defense attorney perspective, Dallas and Tarrant, the phones don't ring as much for marijuana cases, but thankfully, Collin and Denton counties still prosecute. Rockwall still prosecutes.
Yeah.
Johnson County prosecutes for marijuana.
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point it's going to be one of those things that the legislature might take up.
Yep.
But as of right now, it's against the law.
Yeah.
And it's up to the officers to make the arrest,
to
put the case file on the prosecutor's desk.
I tell you what we need to change: catalytic converter laws. Because that is my bread and butter right now.
Right.
And my big issue is if I don't catch them in the act, or if I don't catch them selling to a licensed, regulated mental facility, I have nothing. I have no tools in my tool belt to get these guys.
That's that's where we are.
Yeah. So think of if I catch, for those that don't know, if I stop him and I find out he's got 3 to 5 different credit cards, different people's names, I've got a felony.
Right.
Whether or not he has permission, this will be found out in court later. He may know all those people, but unless he can prove it to me there, he's being arrested and he's getting a felony charge for fraudulent. Yeah. So, but if I catch somebody with a truck full of catalytic converters that they've got a criminal history for theft, all this stuff, all the factors are there. There's no reasonable cause for them to have these. They don't work for a recycling place or whatever. I know they've been out hitting licks is what we call it.
Right.
They got like 3 Sawzalls in the back of their vehicle and they've been out taking your catalytic converter off your car. I got nothing.
It's just a coincidence.
Yeah. Yeah. My cousin gave me those, I found them at a swap meet. Bullshit. So, I got nothing. And that like that is running rampant nationwide.
Oh, yeah.
It ain't just here, it's nationwide. So I saw that legislation came out for September and they increased the penalties for what we already have, which does me no good.
Right.
Yes, it's nice if I catch them selling at a licensed facility, but they don't do that. They sell it to black market buyers, and then the black market guys, they're the ones that take it because they got a clean record.
Sure.
And they've got some sort of bogus LLC under their name that they're a recycling place, and they'll go and sell it to a legit, licensed, regulated metal place. And I don't know why I went down this rabbit hole with you, but you're a guy that can make things happen now. So,
well, my job, if I'm elected, it's to facilitate the movement of cases in an efficient manner. It's to make sure that folks know that they can get a fair shake. It's you've read To Kill a Mockingbird.
Amen.
Atticus Finch proclaims that the one place a person will get a square deal is in a courtroom.
Yeah.
And that's part of our constitutional rights is to ensure that we receive due process when we're facing an accusation, and it's to move the cases.
Yeah.
But if the cases cannot be resolved through an agreement between the parties, then to ensure that the safety of the community is absolutely 100% protected.
Yeah.
But also ensure that constitutional rights are guaranteed. And that involves the judge not having their thumb on the scale. You say, well, what about the safety of the community? Does that override constitutional guarantees? And I'd say it's not. They're equally considered. And there's not a week that goes by that I'm in front of a judge because my guy who's got a DWI and he's got an Intoxilock or a smart start device on their car, and they can't stop drinking. And we have to go in front of the judge and say, Judge, it was either mouthwash, mouthwash,
right? Peppermint schnapps,
right? Yeah, whatever you use as mouthwash, don't use that product anymore. If it's Jack Daniels, put it away. If it's Scope with alcohol, find something without alcohol.
Yeah.
Every week, I'm in front of a court somewhere trying to get a guy from going to jail because he can't stop drinking while he's on bond for a repeat offense DWI. And, you've got to look at the safety of the community in that type of situation. How many breaks is this guy going to get? He's already charged with a criminal offense involving alcohol. He's already put the safety of the community in danger once. He's continuing to drink while he's on bond. He doesn't have that off switch. He's making bad decisions. What do I do with him?
Yeah.
How do I ensure the safety of the community? Do I revoke his bond and put him in jail while his case is pending? Do I give him an additional device? If you're saying it's mouth alcohol, let me put an ankle monitor on you at $400 a month.
Yeah.
And it'll register if you have alcohol in your system. And if you have another alcohol violation on your interlock in your car, but you don't register alcohol on your ankle monitor, okay, fine. Is it something I put you in jail for a weekend just to get your attention?
Yeah.
Or is it something you get an admonition about?
Yeah.
If you come back in front of me, there's going to be some problems.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have to look at how will justice be served as well.
Yeah.
What kind of constitutional guarantees do we have that are operating in this particular set of circumstances?
What I like about you for your position, I would prefer my judges to have had both sides of the house experience.
Yeah. It's important.
Yeah, doing the defense and the prosecution side, because it's like anything. Like it's like me as a detective, like sitting down and trying to interrogate somebody. If I can't see myself on the other side of the house, growing up in Flint, I kind of got to see a real good side of the the criminal side. You know, a lot of my friends were into some shenanigans. We'll put it that way, and seeing both sides. So versus an officer that grew up in a we'll call it a Boy Scout neighborhood. You know, growing up in a Boy Scout neighborhood, it's going to be really hard for you to relate and see and understand the other side of the house. So I think that has been a huge benefit to me as a detective, is understanding kind of the criminal element because I grew up around it. So,
well, you learn wisdom. It's not just something you get. You develop wisdom. And when I started off as a baby prosecutor, you know, I had worked. I had worked for Jim Lane, who is he's a defense attorney in Fort Worth.
Yeah,
he was a city councilman from the North Side.
I always get his name confused with the Texas Hammer.
Jim Adler.
Jim Adler, yeah. Right. I always get them mixed up.
Jim Lane, remarkable attorney.
Yeah.
He's not a big talker, but when he speaks, you listen to what he says.
Yeah.
Working with him while I was in law school, just as not really an intern. I mean, he paid me, but having that experience before I became a prosecutor gave me a more worldly view of things.
Yeah.
And I wasn't the guy who was just fresh out of law school, you know, and this was my first gig, and I was being a prosecutor, and I was going to, you know, just run roughshod over everybody. I had a more of a global view of things and a global view of approaching a criminal case. And when I've been a defense attorney, being a prosecutor has been able to, you know, get me prepped to anticipate, you know, the arguments that the prosecutor is going to make.
Yeah.
We're all working together. We're not working together, you know, glove in hand, but we are working as wheels in this machine. And it is, I think, important for someone to have as much experience working both sides of the courtroom, so they can have that fair and balanced approach to looking at a particular set of facts.
Plus, you can hold the attorneys accountable. If they're not performing their job, you understand how they're doing their job. You know, let's say you've never been a prosecutor and you've only done the defense side of things. Like, you may not see the prosecutor slipping, and you vice versa. If you've never done the defense side, you may not see the defense side slipping as much. So I think that's important. Like you said, to be as balanced as you can. And the judge is supposed to be the most balanced dude. So, so that makes sense. So is this your first time running for any elected position?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Yes, sir. It's not been this wide open. Since I've been licensed. We're going to have 7 new criminal court judges in Tarrant County.
Oh, dang.
So it's kind of the Oklahoma land rush.
Yeah.
You know, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
There's a lot of judicial candidates running for a lot of open benches. And all of us, I think, collectively are doing it for the right reason. We're heeding that call to serve.
Yeah.
And we want to do our part to make our community safer. And, you know, just be part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't question anybody's motivation for running. Because again, I think everybody's doing it for the right reason.
Yeah.
And it's ultimately up to the voters to decide who they want to put their trust in.
Right. So you're going up against 4 people.
Well, 3 others.
3 others. I'm sorry. Are you friends with any of those people? Do you know them personally?
2 of the 3 I am.
Okay.
The 2 of the gentlemen I'm running against they're both criminal defense attorneys.
Okay.
So we all 3 have the same job.
Gotcha.
Currently. There's another individual who doesn't practice criminal law in any capacity. She's running as well, and she's a very pleasant individual.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how viable of a candidate she is, but again, she has the right to run because she meets the qualifications, and she's out there meeting people and talking to people and communicating her message. But 3 of the 4 of us are criminal lawyers. We're in the criminal courthouse every day.
Yeah.
This is all we do. And I think we have a more of a experienced approach to the position. And of course, I think I'm the most qualified. I think I'm the lead horse in the race.
Gotcha. Well, now you've been on this show too, so you're a big deal. So
kind of a big deal. I've got many leather-bound books.
Yeah.
The office smells of rich mahogany.
I love it. So. Okay. Well, people are going to want to get to know you. So other than nerdy lawyer stuff and, me nerdy police stuff, you tell me you're kind of a Star Wars guy. So
yeah, I'm digging your.
You like that?
I'm digging your accessories here. Your artwork is.
It could nice. Be 100 times worse. I have a shed in the backyard that is just full of Star Wars boxes.
Right.
But one of the standard advices that people gave me for the show was unclutter.
Right.
Because when I first started, I had this whole wall was just Star Wars galore. So I said, okay, I'll start getting rid of some stuff. So I'm more of a Boba Fett's where it all started for me. Okay. So I was that kid. Everybody's like, why do you like him so much? He was only in the show like 2 minutes, And I'm like, well, that's part of the reason I like him. He's mysterious. Yeah. But, and he was dressed badass, But I was the nerdy kid. So I had like the books. So I got to read, the Star Wars stories and stuff. And so they had Mandalorian stuff talking about what Boba Fett was and who he is and what his, all that stuff he wears, his armor, what it's capable of. And then you hear like it's impervious to lightsabers and that he got in a fight with Darth Vader and, all these different things about Mandalorians that I didn't know. And then I find out was the big draw. Their credo, if you will, like they're honorable guys.
Yeah.
Like they don't like when you think about the movie, he's portrayed as a bad guy.
He's a bounty hunter. He's a merc.
Right. But what he was really doing was going after a criminal.
Sure.
He was like a space cop. Right. And that's the way I looked at it. Like, and if you look at like the new Mandalorian show, if you've watched that, it's a space western. Yeah, it's a space western basically. And what does he do? He does the right thing all the time. Right. Like he's a person of conscience. So that's why, and that's not just him. That's Mandalorians in general. They're
this is the way.
Yeah, this is the way. They're like a mix between 300 and police, and you know what I mean. So they got all these different factors. They're a warrior, but they're also kind of philosophical and trying to do the right thing, Templar-like a little bit, all of these things, So that's my big draw to the Mandalorian side of things. And now that the Mandalorian was out, and I've been preaching Mandalorian since I was a kid, and all my friends are just same argument. Why do you like him so much? Right. Now whose time is it to shine? Yeah, I'm shining in the moment. So this firearm that I have here, if you look close at the grip, that's Boba Fett. Laser engraved in there. It's my little Boba Fett blaster, and I have his full costume. I have the full costume. Yeah, okay. I'm super nerd. So,
so what's your favorite Star Wars movie? I guess of the however many there are now.
Probably, I think I have the
Empire
Strikes Back. It's probably my favorite. I do like the new stuff. There's a big argument over. Disney took over, and I don't care. They could put out the crappiest Star Wars movie. I'm so much of a fanboy that I'm going to like it.
Right. It's still Star Wars.
Yeah, it's still Star Wars. Like, okay, learn from that one. They know they messed up on certain ones.
Right.
It'll get better. So.
Well, it's I think you're referencing the prequels.
Yes, I am.
I'm Empire or Rogue One.
Okay. Rogue One was really good.
The episodes 4, 5, and 6. New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi. I mean, that's a character arc for Vader. It's a Darth Vader story to me.
Yes.
And redemption.
Yeah.
And I think the benefit of Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, it creates the cornerstone, the foundation, if you will, for that character arc.
Yes.
So I think they're not bad. they're not the best, but I think they're an important part of that character arc that we see in episodes 4, 5, and 6.
I loved them when they came out. I loved it.
I was excited because it was Star Wars.
Yeah, I was dressed up. I was, I was in high school, but my boys were waiting in line. I like that whole build up to it because it was the first chance that I got to experience probably what all those kids in the 70s and 80s got to do. I didn't get to do that. I was too young. I'm 38. So I didn't grow up necessarily old enough, but I respected it as a kid. I mean, it was still they were still selling toys. I think 83, the year I was born, that was the last movie that had been made at the time. So I was in the wheelhouse for the toys and all that stuff. And then when the prequels came out at the time, the graphics and CGI, all that stuff was awesome. You watch it now and you're just like, oh, this didn't age well. And some of the Jar Jar, obviously most people hate Jar Jar. Did you ever see the conspiracy theory that Jar Jar was actually the Sith Lord?
No.
Oh my God. You got to watch that video.
Okay.
It had me convinced.
Okay.
It was logically put together, and you see all these fumblings and stuff that he does that is just everything is in place for it to turn to the dark side type thing. But the Mandalorian, Jon Favreau, come out making the Mandalorian, and I think that's re-sparked everybody as far as Star Wars fan base, and if they let that man start taking over the movies, I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah,
because
he's done a good job.
Yeah, it's perfect. I mean, it's absolutely perfect. The inclusion of random celebrities that like Bill Burr's on there,
right?
Hilarious, and I would have never pegged him for a part, but he did great.
Right,
it was really good. What's her name? Carano, the chick that was an MMA fighter.
Gina Carano.
Gina Carano. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think she's in it anymore. No. She made a bad tweet or something, and now she's out. So
she hurt somebody's feelings.
Yeah. God, I wish people would get over this. I can't wait for that to be a thing that's over with.
We're a society of people who get too easily offended.
Yes, I agree. What else is there? So who's you've been watching The Mandalorian, right?
Uh-huh.
So what's your favorite thing about that so far?
Honestly, it was after the credits rolled at the end of the last season, and he rolls in to Jabba's palace and takes Jabba's throne.
Take his throne, yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, oh,
yeah,
it's on.
Yeah, when
that portion of the entire series has really got me stoked for what's coming down the pipe.
I really liked I always forget her name, the dual lightsaber chick. That's her name. It's not Bo-Katan. I keep wanting to say that. That's not it.
Yeah. That girl.
That girl. Asa. I think it begins with A. Anyway, I have a terrible memory. Her. That was awesome. Yeah. Because I watched her in the Attack of the Clones and all the cartoon stuff that's come out.
See, I've never watched any of the cartoon stuff.
Oh, dude, get on it. Get on it. They're so good.
Right.
Yeah. Because they're
good.
So you get through the first season and it's very kid oriented, like a little corny. It's hard to want to stay focused on it. But once you get past that, they get new writers and they angle it towards guys like us.
Right.
Kids can still watch it. It's still kid friendly, but it's like watching Shrek.
Sure.
The humor.
Some highbrow stuff that goes over the kids' heads.
Exactly. Yeah. So worth it. And then, the Bad Batch and all that stuff. So really cool. Highly recommend. So you're a Star Wars nerd.
I think I'm just a nerd in general.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, I figured out how to do all of this and I have no computer background, no nothing. So it's just when I get something in my head as far as something I'm into, like I just nerd out on it.
Yeah.
Try to do all the research and figure it out. But, what about sports? You said you didn't play football. How was you a Texan and not play football?
Well, I grew up in Tennessee.
That's true.
I could have gone to a couple of different colleges to play.
Yeah.
offensive or defensive line.
Yeah.
Nothing glamour. No like Miami's or Texas or Nebraska or Oklahoma or no big schools. These are smaller liberal arts.
University of Michigan. That's the big one.
Well, I won't talk about the big house.
Yeah,
I think Neyland Stadium in Knoxville is probably it seems like Michigan and Tennessee have this thing.
Yeah.
Like who can be the
biggest
stadium.
Yeah. So you're not going to beat Michigan.
Well,
I was there during
the
winter.
Not always butts and seats that make a stadium great.
True. But I was there during the Winter Classic when we got to fill in the ground level as well. 122,000 people. Insane.
Right.
But it's funny that the most people it wasn't even for football games, for hockey. So,
right.
I think it was the Wings versus the Maple Leafs at the time. So
that's a sport I don't get. I don't understand hockey. I have tried.
Oh my God.
I've tried to sit down and watch it.
So
I don't get it.
Yeah.
The blue line and the icing and I'm it's foreign to me.
You know what I tell people to do because it really does depend on the rules. Because I'm not into soccer, but I understand the draw for it. Probably because I love hockey and they're very similar in some aspects, but I don't understand the rules enough. And somebody told me to play a soccer video game that basically walks you through how to play, because they have tutorials and all that stuff on them now. So I recommend that to people that don't understand hockey, because once you understand the rules and how to play, then you understand everything that's getting set up. It's just like football, we're looking at it and I'm like, oh, it's going to be an option, or something, you understand the rules, so you're into it a little bit more. Because hockey's the fastest paced game out there with the biggest hits.
Right.
And that's not knocking football. Football has gigantic hits too, but you're on skates. On ice, you can skate twice as fast as a person can run, if not faster, and get obliterated on the ice. You know what I mean? So, and that person's on skates as well, so their footing is already compromised. So,
what's that Rodney Dangerfield line? I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other part. I wish people would learn from hockey that I'm not saying fighting is the draw necessarily, or that makes the sport great. What fighting does is it adds a dynamic of honesty to the game. And what I mean by that is LeBron James flopping on the ground after you watch the replay and there's nobody that touched him.
Right.
That won't fly in hockey, because if you do that, you're going to get messed up. They're going to come for you because they can hit you legally. And then if you proceed to do that, they're going to punish you more, because now they're going to fight you. And if you're a goal scorer, let's say you're a high priority person to the team, you may not personally fight, but you, the big guy on the team, now you got to fight for me because of the shenanigans I just pulled.
Right.
So now you're going to be pissed at me because I just got you into a fight that you may not necessarily have been looking for. You may get suspended. You may get hurt. Any of those factors. So it creates, I'm getting deep into the hockey thing, but it creates a level of honesty in the game.
Yeah.
So I say bring that to basketball. Bring that to, even in baseball we have it. If it gets out of hand, there ain't nobody breaking that up. They're going to let go.
Sure.
The umps can only do so much when the teams get together. So it's kind of on the teams to help each other out. But, I mean, look at Noel Ryan. He was giving, Ventura some love, and there's a level of letting that stuff play out that creates a mutual respect for the game. The shenanigans get, people aren't throwing at your head anymore and stuff like that. So I say let them fight. All sports, let them fight.
Right.
Table tennis, let them fight. I don't care. Let them jump over the table, because I think it provides it keeps the game integrity intact versus, flopping.
I wish I could get into it. I've put the effort in. I've got to circle back around to it.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of hobbies. I've got 2 teenage daughters. And
I'm right behind you, 9 and 12.
Yeah,
so.
well, they turn into 16 and 13-year-olds, and it gets worse.
Yeah.
But I've really been involved with their activities.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't play golf. I'm a terrible golfer, but I don't play golf. I spend a lot of time with my kids.
Towards the mic.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
I spend a lot of time with my kids. We were in the Indian Princess program with the YMCA, and
Indian Princess program?
Yeah, it's a father-child program through the YMCA. I was an Eagle Scout. I went through Boy Scouting, and
I made a Boy Scout reference earlier. That's awesome. I was not. I didn't get thrown out. I got lazied out. So
that's all right.
My mom would try to take me. I'm like, I'm good.
Well, you get older, and other interests, creep into the picture.
Yeah. Eagle Scout's a big deal, though.
It is. It took a lot of work, but my regret is I raced through it. I got my Eagle Scout. I did.
Yeah.
I raced through it, though. I got my Eagle Scout in 1989, May of 1989.
How old were you?
I was born in 74. 15.
Dang.
No, 14. Because I turned 15 in October of 89. So I had to wait, I think 4 months before I could even sit for my board of review for Eagle. But I got through Boy Scouts completely before I really got involved in sports. In the high school level. So
it's safe to say you're a very goal-oriented person.
I am.
Yeah.
It's kind of an obsessive compulsive thing. And,
but
I didn't have children to put in Boy Scouts. I guess now you can put girls in Boy Scouts, which is a whole different discussion.
My daughter's not going into Boy Scouts.
I'm still scratching my head about that one. But Indian Princess it's a great program through the YMCA, and they've renamed it to make it something less, culturally offensive. It's not Indian Princess anymore. It's something else.
I didn't even think about
it. It's the same spirit of scouting.
Yeah, indigenous princesses.
We've gotten out of it. My daughters then got into gymnastics and soccer and dance.
So that's why you're trying to be a judge. You can't afford your kids. That's the reason. I did gymnastics. Holy shit!
Right. It's a lot of. My younger daughter's the gymnast.
Yeah.
My older daughter, she's at Arlington High. She's a drum major. She's in the honors choir. And,
mine's in orchestra.
So my younger one's in orchestra. What is your daughter?
She plays the viola, the piano, and one other instrument that she's trying to get into. I don't remember what it was.
Maddie plays the cello.
I think that's it. The big one, yes.
Well, not the big one, but the
stand-up thing. Yeah. Right. Because I guess apparently it goes hand in hand with the viola, which is a bigger violin. I get yelled at for calling it a violin, so I've learned my lesson.
Well, growing up as a jock, I never thought I'd have fine arts kids,
right?
But it's what they enjoy, and they truly have a passion for music, both of them. And I mean, we'll nurture that.
Yeah, that's how I am. I just figure out what they like, and if they like the nerdy one, the one that's in orchestra, she's also in volleyball.
Yeah.
So I said, if you like it, and shoot, we put her in camps. We did all these things over the summer to build her up to try to make the team, because she's just started junior high. So you got to actually make the team. So she made the team. She didn't make the A squad, but she made the secondary team or whatever it is, and she's getting better. She still likes it. So
she'll get more playing time.
Yeah, exactly. And she's really tall for her age. She's like in the 99 percentile. She's almost as tall as I am. I think she's
a pin hitter, or she plays middle, or
she likes serving. So she's trying to get that overhand down. She's going to be, I don't know what the position's called, but I think personally she's going to be the one that does really well in front of the net.
Yeah,
because she's just so tall. And it's not that she's the only tall one, but it's very limited to get that type of height for that age. So she's digging that. And then the youngest, she just can't quite figure out what her niche is yet.
Yeah.
Loves art, loves to draw. We get her all the art stuff that she can handle. But I told her if she doesn't find a hobby soon, it's going to be, I'm putting her right back in jiu-jitsu.
Right. Cool.
And they both done jiu-jitsu several times. I do 6-month stints with them because I don't want to burn them out. And I want them to enjoy it. I don't want to force it on them. But anybody out there listening, that's the best tool you can give your female daughters,
jiu-jitsu.
Is jiu-jitsu. It's the anti-rape tool. That's I want my girls to be able to handle themselves. And they're not black belts or anything like that. But the more they keep getting exposed to it, the more comfortable they can get with it and being in bad positions and handle themselves. So, and beat up boys. So I'm down with that. So I'm hoping they want to get back into it soon. My oldest said she wants to. She just needs the time. She's so you got kids doing band, and we had to go to a picnic for orchestra yesterday.
Okay.
So it was like a meet and greet type thing. So
the blessing we've had this past year is when Grace turned 16, she can drive herself to all these events all over town.
Right.
Sometimes she can take Maddie with her and drop her off. So it's our day's not monopolized.
Yep.
Shuttling kids across town.
Isn't it crazy the trend? When I turned 15, I was chomping at the bit to get my license, my learner's permit, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Kids are not like that anymore. They could care less.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Right.
It's freedom. Like, to me, that was freedom. You got out of the house, you get away. So when I got my license and I had my first car, I was never home. Of course, I had to work to get that gas money.
Right.
And in Michigan, this is a little bonus for being in Michigan. This is worth 10 cents.
Oh, okay.
So
collect a lot of those.
Oh man, I'm 16 years old. I'm a little old for, kids collecting them. That was kind of the thing. They would go around collecting them. I'd be up at the park after a softball game, digging in the trash. Like, I got my gas money, and then working little part-time jobs as a dishwasher and things like that. So, that's how you got your gas money at the time. They don't do that no more. I don't understand.
They're too busy playing video games.
Right. Minecraft.
I
don't get that either.
There's so much stuff. It's
as a dad.
My dad was a commercial airline pilot, like I said, and he flew 400 people over the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But he didn't know how to work a cell
So he was
phone.
international.
Yeah, he was flying internationally.
Oh man.
But he's flying these planes across the ocean in the middle of the night, but he didn't know how to work a cell phone. I'm like, Dad, I can't fly a 747, but I can figure out a cell phone.
Right.
Why can't you?
Yeah.
And now I've turned into that old man who's like shouting at the clouds. And my kids are like, God, Dad, you're so old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come here to explain how to work this.
Yeah.
I don't understand. It's this easy, Dad. I mean, you're so old. I can't believe you don't understand this.
The thing that drives me nuts now is they watch other people do activities that they like to do.
Yeah.
Why? They will spend hours watching somebody else play a game that they play.
Right.
Hours. And I'm like, okay, I get it if it's a tutorial or you're trying to learn something, but they're enjoying the game. You could be enjoying the game too if you just go play it. Why are you watching this guy play? Or this one that my youngest likes is this girl just opening up products like toys and stuff and then talking about the toys, and she'll watch them for hours.
Right.
I'm like, how is this entertaining to you?
There's a lot of I guess they're called challenge videos.
Oh yeah.
Where the brother and sister, there's one that Maddie watches, and they just eat things. They challenge each other to eat, this or that.
Right.
They film their reactions, and I'm like, I don't understand the draw of that. I don't know why you find that appealing and entertaining, but okay.
Like me growing up, internet was like, we grew up through the time when the internet came out and then developed, and in our younger years, trying to be adults at adult ages, like we watched a lot of, like for me, I watched prank videos. I thought they were hilarious. And now with TikTok and all that stuff, like they're all over the place. Like I watch that type of stuff. My kids have no interest in it. I had it on the TV one time because I figured out how to do that. And this guy's walking around and he's talking on the oh no. So like somebody's walking behind you. Like I'm looking through you.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, those are some huge melons. And the guy's behind him and he's got two cantaloupes. Right. And the girl's all offended, like, oh my God. And then the guy's like, yeah, I just picked him up. And they look behind themselves and they're like, oh, I'm so dumb. They think they're dumb. But it's just stupid little pranks like that. I thought it was hilarious.
Right.
They just walked out of the room. Like, probably inappropriate, that particular joke for my kids, but they live with a cop, so they hear inappropriate stuff all the time. That's just how it is. So, but yeah, my kids, they don't like that stuff. They like weird stuff. But I guess we were that way as kids too. Our parents just didn't get it.
I never thought that stuff that's on TV now would be on TV when I was a kid.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, you're right.
Well, just the watering down of acceptable standards.
Yeah,
and then just the the dead, like, junk food television.
Yeah.
With the videos and the just mindless shows.
Yeah. And I catch myself doing it, and I hate myself for it. Afterwards, I'm like, I just watched TikTok videos for an hour and a half. Right. What is wrong with me? And afterwards you just, okay, I kind of get why my kids do it.
Well, this gives you some street cred with your kids, though.
Right. So. Yeah. And I avoided, only reason I got TikTok was because of this podcast.
Right.
And people were like, you need to be on there, to help spread the word and all that stuff. I was like, all right, I'll get it. So I started doing it, and you saw me, I was doing a TikTok. I don't do them very often.
Right.
But like a personal one that I put out, I do it only when I'm going to have a new episode. So when we went way off track here. When is the election for you?
Well, the general election is next November.
Okay.
The primary, which should be in March, no one really knows when that's going to be because of redistricting.
Oh.
The legislature's got to do redistricting, and that is likely to push back the primary election from March the 1st and early voting immediately preceding it back to possibly May or June. It's kind of an educated guess as to when it's going to be.
Okay.
Later in the spring. Though,
so we're way ahead of the ball game then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're 6 months away from the primary. It's in March.
So when did you throw your hat in the ring?
This end of February of this year.
Okay. So how bad has Rona affected y'all with the courts and stuff? Because I know it's affected us.
It's shut down the courts, and it's created a backlog of cases that needs to be addressed because people are still making bad decisions and picking up new cases, and those are coming down the pipe, and you've got to make room. You got to take out the trash.
Yeah.
You got to make room for the new cases and get rid of the old. And there's been a very conscientious effort by the courts and by the district attorney's offices to clear up some space for these new cases. And there have been trials have kind of gone the way of the condor, for the large part. It's really hard to get 6 or 12 people to sit in a courtroom and listen to evidence.
Yeah.
With COVID-19 concerns.
Yeah.
But the courts have been very efficient in operating under the new world in which we live. For the time being, and they're basically making lemonade out of lemons.
Yep.
And I really think are doing everything that can be done to alleviate this backlog of cases. But the work's not done. It's going to take some judges to roll up their sleeves and really promote just a moving of the docket.
Yeah.
And that does take the prosecutors and the defense attorneys working to resolve these cases.
I would like to see more of the Zoom, because we've been using Zoom to. Oh, you're all right. We've been using Zoom, to get our warrants looked at, search warrants, arrest warrants, only at the lower court level. If I want to get with the district court, they're like, no, you got to come in.
Right.
Why?
That's how the judge wants it. They want to be able to, read the PC affidavit, or the affidavit supporting the warrant, question you about it. I think it's just to get, their hands.
It's the same thing.
I know. It's similar.
The problem is they slow. It
slows the process.
Yeah, it slows the process down. It's less efficient because I can be like, I get this. Hey, Sarge, take a look. How's that look? Oh, it looks good. Everything's good to go. Okay, he signs off on it. Cool. Boom. Get on the thing. I don't have to leave because when I have to go somewhere, now you've just completely taken the wind out of the sails. Only because you allowed me to go on video.
Right.
Had they never allowed that and then took that away from us, then I'm like,
what's the judge's name on the door? He can make the call.
I know.
And if
you're going to be a judge, I'm telling you, this is what we need as police.
I'm all about efficiency. And something I've told folks, and being an Arlington person, I've talked to some Arlington officer buddies. I'm like, just make sure it's known that if you need a search warrant signed at 3:00 in the morning, you'll be able to find me.
Yeah.
You know where I live. You'll have my phone number. And part of being a public servant is being accessible.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know that there's a chance of evidence spoilage the more time that passes. And there's a reason you're coming to me at 3 o'clock in the morning to get a warrant.
Yeah.
Time may be of the essence. Let's get the thing done.
Yeah.
If it's meritorious and, you know, the affidavit is sound and, you know, there's no anomalies there. We review it, ask you any questions that are applicable, sign the warrant, give it to you, and you're off to do your duty.
Yep.
But it's important to be accessible to officers who are looking to get that warrant served, or executed.
And it's one of those things too. Like, and I'm just trying to be honest with people so they understand. Like, I may delay working a case just based on the fact that I have to leave the office.
Right.
Because there's other cases that I can get stuff done right here, right now. Now, obviously, if it's a serious violent offense or somebody's, you know, safety is in danger, that's going to be the priority. I'm not going to shirk that, but I may have a solid case. I know that a search warrant or arrest warrant's good to go, but now the fact that I have to leave to go get this accomplished, I may say, all right, I'm going to put this one off. I'm going to go through my other cases. Like, that stinks when, you know, you get in a workflow. I'm like, all right, I'm going through. Cool. Got this warrant knocked out. Cool. Let me send it to the judge. Awesome. He's going to jump on while I'm waiting for that process to go through. And I know there's going to be a video conference. I can start going through them. Yeah, I can go through I can multitask. So I'm preaching to the choir. You understand what I mean. But for those that don't, and that's kind of one of the points of this show is, you know, just education. I think you coming on here and talking about what you do, there's a lot of people that don't know what you do. You know, a lot of, like I said, what's that initial thought process when somebody thinks of a defense attorney? Yeah.
Well, to tie in the Star Wars reference, you know, I hear all the time.
Okay.
Oh, you feel your dark side. You're a defense lawyer.
Okay, I was wondering how he's going to tie that in there. Yeah.
Here's a little straight truth. You know, the Empire, the dark side, the Empire, they were aligned with the government.
That's right. Oops. Oh, you're good.
The Rebel Alliance, they were the free fighters.
They were terrorists.
They were the ones who were operating outside of the scope of the government against the dark side. Right? So
I'm with you.
I think, honestly,
the Empire did nothing wrong.
Honestly, I think if you line it up with Star Wars canon, I think the defense attorneys are not the dark side when in fact it might be the state.
Oh, okay.
Because the state is the governing
body
over the galaxy, over the universe.
And it's the people's job to keep the government in check.
So, you know, there's a quote from Thomas Jefferson that I give to jurors before jury selection is that the trial system is the only system yet imagined by man by which the government could be held to the principles of its constitution.
Yes.
And that's really what it's about. It's our Constitution. We just had Constitution Day yesterday, I believe, 17th. Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's a limitation on government powers. Stop a government overreaching.
Yep.
And the trial system is, you know, that line we draw in the sand, saying, okay,
like mandatory vaccinations.
Oh God!
I won't get you down that
Goodness. But it's that line we draw in the sand saying you have certain things that you must do and there's things you may not do.
Right.
And we're going to hash all these out.
Yeah.
In this courtroom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's been my position that you know, the dark side is not the defense bar, it's actually the prosecutors.
Okay.
But you know, I do not. I prefer a red kyber crystal in my lightsaber, even though I'm not aligned with the dark side.
I think Alderaan would disagree with you. But they're not here to argue that anymore. So, rest in peace. And if I'm gonna get a kyber crystal, it's gonna be purple. I loved it.
Yeah.
I want my lightsaber to say "bad motherfucker" on it.
Right. Right. Reach in the bag. Which one's yours?
Yeah.
It's the lightsaber that says.
Yep, exactly. Have you ever watched Samuel L. Jackson? He talks to George Lucas. There's a film where they're back behind the scenes or something like that. And he's like, I'll be a character on there. He's like, I was thinking if I get a lightsaber, he's like, I want a purple one. And George is like, no, they can only be green or blue. And he's like, I think mine will be purple. And he's like, I think he says it'll say bad motherfucker on there or something to that effect. And George goes, all right, we'll see what we can do.
Right.
And sure as shit, that's what ends up happening. And Mace ends up having a badass lightsaber. I think, this is just me theorizing, he's got the ability to come back.
Does?
Well, think about it.
He just flew out the window.
He just flew out the window. Nobody ever actually see him die. So just like with Boba Fett, went down in the Sarlacc pit.
Right.
You can argue that he got out. So, and if you know anything about the other nerdy stories, before they ever showed him get out, they explained that he survives. His armor holds up, and he burns his way out or does something to get out of there. So, so he survives. But yeah, I think Mace Windu could have survived.
Right. I
think you can make a fair argument. Because shit, Darth Maul survived.
Right.
If you get into the cartoons.
I've heard about that.
Yeah.
I guess getting sliced in half.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
Well, really lightsaber cauterizes.
Right.
So he had that, and then he ends up getting robot legs basically. And I don't know who saved him, but through the power of the dark side, you can use the dark side to help keep you alive.
Right.
So that's part of it. And we just a little, that dog that you saw out there, the little, it's called a red Doberman, but that one, we just got her. We rescued her after our older dog passed away, and we named her Leia.
Okay.
Much to my dismay, I wanted Ray.
Okay.
But my wife said that's a boy's name. She didn't understand because the other one, his name's Kylo.
Okay.
So I wanted Kylo and Ray.
Sure.
I got outvoted because I wanted Kylo to be Mando. Okay. I got outvoted for that one. But yeah, my dogs are both named after Star Wars.
You involved in rescue group?
Yeah, the North Texas Doberman Rescue.
Okay.
So yeah, we got my other Doberman. The mother turned on the litter and killed one of the pups, so they had to get those pups out of there. So I got that right away. He was 8 weeks old when we got him. You saw how big he got. And then this one is 6 months old. So when our family dog of almost 16 years passed away, he kind of went in a little depressive funk because that was the only other buddy he had. That dog's a year and a half. That one that you said, the big one.
Right.
He's only a year and a half old, so he's still kind of a pup himself. And then we saw that female, the red, on the Doberman Rescue, and just a ball of energy. And you can tell a dog that has a good personality with other dogs. And now we went, they played together. I mean, instantly started playing, and good relationship. She's pretty much cat friendly. We have one cat that is an indoor-outdoor cat, and she'll chase her around a little bit, but not like maliciously. So good with the cat, great with the kids. So it's all worked out. So we've rescued 2 great dogs from North Texas Doberman Rescue. And
we do. We've got 2 English Springer Spaniels.
Okay.
That we've adopted through the
bird dog, right?
Yeah. They're quail and pheasant.
Yeah.
Pheasant.
Yeah. The one that passed away was a German Shorthair.
Oh, I love GSBs.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah. He was a good dog. So I wanted another one, but I don't think we were ready because he was like, that was our first dog.
Right.
As, adults like that we had, and he's seen everything. He was there through my active duty time, through both kids being born, and moved state to state. We've lived in Michigan, Montana, and now Texas. So, so when he went, I was just like, I really want another pointer. I just don't think I'm ready to have another pointer yet. So we got another Doberman.
I've always been a dog person, and we're active in the Springer Rescue here in North Texas. We transport dogs, and so when I interviewed at the DA's office, just the last question they asked me was like, tell us something about yourself that's not on your resume. And I just went blank. I was like, well, I really like dogs.
And they were like,
it was just crickets.
Yeah.
And they looked at each other and they're like, "Oh, he likes dogs."
Yeah.
So
he's a dog person. All right.
Well, I called my wife when I left, the interview, and I was like, "Well, I screwed that up." She's like, "What happened?" She's like, "I told him I like dogs." That's all I could think about to say about myself is I like dogs.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not going to work at their office. And I got a phone call a week later. So
it must have been dog people.
I guess so.
That had to be the deciding factor. So, you should put that in your campaign slogan.
I like dogs.
Brian Bolton.
I really like dogs. But yeah, it's if the old saying is, you lock your wife or your girlfriend up in the trunk of your car for a week,
and your dog,
who's going to be happy to see you when you unlock the trunk?
Yeah, dog's always going to be happy.
Of course.
Yeah,
wagging their tail, ready to jump in your arms.
Yeah. It's a love we don't deserve. That's what I tell people. Truly. Dogs, they have a love for you that we don't deserve. My cat, I could be dying on the side of the road, and that cat wouldn't give a shit.
I'm not we are Siamese.
Oh,
I'm not a cat person.
I like cats.
We had an 8 or 9 year run with a cat.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I grew up with both. I have an appreciation for both. I lean towards dogs.
Yeah.
For sure. Cats, that was the first thing my wife and I, when we moved out together, we went and got some barn cats, kittens, and they both died within like less than a year of each other at like 7 years old, like way too early. One got diabetes. Yeah. Something happened, and then the other one, I call it heartbreak, just stopped eating, refused to eat, taken back and forth to the vet. She just would not eat to the point where her kidneys and stuff shut down and passed away. So sad, but those cats acted like dogs, and it was weird. So not all cats act like that. The one I have now, he doesn't act like a dog. When he wants to be pet, he comes around. As soon as he's done, he bites you, and then he walks away. Like
gives you the finger and leaves the room.
He's like like any stereotypical cat you could think of. Yeah, exactly. Like, I want you to pet me exactly 3 times and no more. And then he's just the goof. But he's he takes care of the bugs, and he does serve a function. But the wife loves cats, and she wanted one. She loves dogs too. My wife is that lady that will chase down a dog in the middle of a field that she thinks is lost.
Right.
And then call me. I'm at the corner of this street and that street. This dog's, 300 yards west. He's running this direction. She's like, I'm trying to get him cornered so I can catch him and find out where he belongs. I'm like, leave that damn dog alone. He's going to bite you.
Right.
And she's like, he's scared. I'm like, he's 300 yards away. How do you know that? She's nuts. So she's got a big heart. I give her credit, but no more animals.
Right.
3 is the max. This is all we're getting. My daughter wants a axolotl. You ever heard of that?
No.
It looks like a underwater lizard.
Huh?
It's a lizard, and it's got like these tree branch things coming off of its head.
Y'all have fun with that.
Yeah. I had one when I was a kid for like a week. I bought it at Pet Supplies Plus, like impulse buy as a kid, and then it didn't survive, obviously, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And so, but she's that kid, you can understand. She gets good grades. She gets all A's. She does what she's told for the most part, and she's just a good kid. So it's hard, like when she never asks for anything. So when she does, I'm just like, all right, you've earned it. So if you want one of these axolotl things, you can get one. But she's such a nerd. She's been researching for months.
Right.
She still doesn't know which one she wants. She wants a particular color and all this stuff. So
give the girl what she wants.
When she finally comes to a decision, she's got to get all educated and whatnot. She did a PowerPoint presentation on why she deserves one.
For y'all? That's deserving.
Right?
Let's put some work into it.
It was like a 20-minute PowerPoint. Wow. Yeah. She went she went into the science of what they are, the environment they live in, what to do when you get one, how to take care of it to ensure they survive, what they eat, the most common mistakes with them. I mean, she went through it all.
Yeah.
Picture by picture, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, oh, she's so mean. I didn't have those resources as a kid. I wasn't I wasn't that smart as a child.
Right.
I kind of grew into that later in life. So maybe that's where she's getting it from now. Because as a kid, I just did what was required to stay eligible for sports. Let's just put it that way. I was a social animal. How about you?
I kind of floated with different circles of friends.
Yeah.
That didn't necessarily overlap.
Right.
But I was kind of the common denominator between these different groups.
Yep. I was kind of that way because I did choir because that's where all the chicks were, including my wife. Right. So I did choir like right out the gate, starting like 7th grade, but I played baseball and hockey. So
right.
That's like you said, the circles don't cross at all. The choir and the band friends tend to mix. And it's funny now because the people I talk to the most from back home they're not the jocks. It's mostly the music majors and stuff like that. Mitch Wood, Brad Davis, these guys that you don't know, but they jump on my Facebook page all the time and we discuss this type of stuff. And getting to see it's going to be cool. So when you get judged, you got to promise you'll come back.
I'll be glad to be back
because I definitely want to hear about that. There's one more topic at least that I want to bring up, and then I'm going to leave it to you. Anything else that you want to discuss, we can do. Okay. But Bond.
Okay.
As not the action character. I'm talking about Bond for getting out of jail. I have a huge issue with I get a warrant written and a bond is placed on there. Mm-hmm. I had a $250,000 bond put on a guy that absolutely deserved it. He was taking advantage of a mentally disabled and physically disabled man for years. Now, I will toot my own horn on this. I took the time to look at this guy's history and my victim's history, and I found out that where I work, we had failed the victim by mischarging. And it wasn't anybody's fault necessarily. It just, there's different charges you can put on somebody. Like you could put robbery or you could put theft from a person, right? So there's these different charges. And in my opinion, robbery was missed a couple times. With this guy basically was a homeless dude that had been repeatedly basically extorting this man. And there were several older charges. So I look at this history. It's about a 5-year span. And I go all out for the victim because he's like 76 years old, elderly. That was the other part, elderly and disabled. So I went all the way for this dude and talked to the judge. And like, look, we failed this guy, whether it was the courts or it was the police department. I don't think it was intentional, but let's justify, let's fix this for this guy, make sure this guy's no longer a problem. And judge agreed. $250,000 bond. Largest bond I've ever gotten as a detective. That's huge. I'm like, holy shit, awesome. This guy gets arrested. I mean, within days, like we went out searching for him. That's how serious we were taking this, because even after we had got the charges going, this guy victimized him 2 more times in between, just a couple of days. So we catch him, he gets put in jail, and then I always check, what's his bond? He got more than cut in half. Now, he's not getting out.
Right.
Because he can't afford that. But what if he could have? Like, it pissed me off. And I don't understand it. And you're going to be a judge, so I want you to see where I'm coming from. It seems like that happens on every single bond I've ever gotten. Like, it automatically gets cut.
Sure.
Why?
Here's my take on bonds. Well, under the Code of Criminal Procedure, a bond is a monetary promise to appear in court.
Right.
And you've got to have some skin in the game. I think PR bonds serve a place, they serve a function. But if people don't have any skin in the game, they don't have any incentive to show up in court. But on a $250,000 bond, okay, so the guy's got to drop $25,000 with a bond company for that bond company to write a bond, because it's usually 8 to 10%.
Yeah. Unless
he's just flush with cash and he posts a cash bond with the county, he's going to go to a bond company. Now, I guess the response question is, if the bond was cut to $100,000, is that not going to guarantee his appearance in court if the bond's cut in half? No, it's not.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah,
I mean, it's even if it's an academic point and he's not able to pay that $100,000 amount.
Yeah,
it's been cut to give him the opportunity to try to, at least make some sort of accommodation to get out of jail.
Right.
Jail's not a holding facility just for an indefinite period of time.
Right.
If you can post a bond and get out, then get out of jail. Because I know Sheriff Wayburn just doesn't like babysitting people.
Yeah.
So,
but if the opportunity to re-victimize, and I've clearly got a history on,
he can do that with a $250,000 bond. And if he re-victimizes while he's on bond, well, that's an additional offense, regardless of what the bond amount is.
Yeah. That
doesn't keep you from re-offending while you're on bond at whatever dollar amount it comes out as being.
Correct.
So, I mean, I personally, I wouldn't find there to be a fault in reducing a bond to something that's more reasonable. And the court looks at several factors in determining a bond amount. If a city judge, puts a bond on a case and the warrant's on the NCIC and he gets taken to jail and gets arraigned, the bond gets lowered or it doesn't, and the defense attorney files a motion or a writ to get the bond reduced, and there's a hearing that's conducted and the judge decides based on these enumerated factors in the Code of Criminal Procedure.
Yeah.
That the bond should be lowered, then it's lowered.
I get that. That I understand.
And if you post the bond, then you have the same obligation to appear in court as if the bond had never been lowered in the first place. The same obligations apply.
Yeah.
The same bond conditions can apply. It's just at a lower amount.
It's just weird to me that when a judge makes a decision, oftentimes another judge, let's say in appeals or whatever it is, they don't want to buck another judge's decision. And it's not always the fact. I mean, if you present a good case, they'll change it. I get that. But for the most part, they tend to lean towards whatever that first judge made the decision on. Like, that's his decision. But when it comes to a bond, you're the judge, you made the bond, and now it goes to this other judge once we get the guy arrested, and that judge instantly, every time that I can recall, just obliterates that bond.
Right.
And I'm like, what the hell? Why is that okay? Why that judge made a call that knew the facts of the warrant and all that stuff at the time, was able to talk to me and ask questions. Now you got a new judge that has nothing to do with any of it. There's no defense attorney getting up there and stating those enumerated facts, and there's no prosecutor getting up there saying anything. They're just like, fuck it.
Well, the magistrate sitting at the jail can look at it and say, well, I think this is too high. I think at this amount for this offense, with the jail population that we have, I'm going to reduce this bond to something less.
Yeah.
Another judge, when the case gets filed and lands in the court, that judge may raise the bond.
Right.
And put bond conditions, additional bond conditions on after the parties get involved. The prosecutor and the defense attorney have a hearing. It's something that's within the discretion of the arraigning judge, the arraigning magistrate at the jail, to lower a bond.
Yeah. It's frustrating as a detective. I can tell you that it's real frustrating because they're like, all right, he probably won't get out on this $50,000 bond, and then you look, it's down to $2,500. I'm like, well, he's definitely getting out on the $2,500 bond. So,
well, that's another opportunity for y'all to make a case potentially.
Yes, it is, but I prefer to not have to deal with that. Yes, right. That's the big thing. Is I'm like, and then when they do reoffend. And you're like, all right, there's another victim that this one could have been prevented because he's clearly a reoffender. He's going to keep coming back. Right. So I don't know. I'm venting at you. It's not your fault. You're not even the judge yet. But when you become a judge, and do you plan on? Is this a stepping stone?
No.
No.
Nope.
So that's
top of the pyramid for me is a county criminal court judge position.
Is it really?
I don't want to be a professional candidate.
He was 31 years, so obviously you said he did that for 31 years, right?
Yeah, right out of the DA's office. County Court 9 was created, and he filled the vacancy. Yeah. And he's run for re-election successfully every time he's run.
So I'm just curious, what's for anybody that's maybe wanting to follow your career path, like seeing how you did things and whatnot, and if you make it, what's the salary difference? I'm not trying to get in your business for your money, but like for like prosecution side, because that's still a state job.
Right.
So I'm just curious.
They're paying better now than they were when I was at the DA's office.
Yeah.
There were over 100 people that applied for 7 positions.
Wow.
And the commissioner's court started us at $44,000. This was in 2002. $44,000. And part of the interviewing process was, can you afford to work here?
How do you pay your student loan?
I was blessed to not have student loans. But that was another question in the interview. Do you have student loans?
Yeah. I did military, so I didn't have to pay.
I had a Arlington cop buddy of mine that after September 11th, he graduated from TCU.
Okay.
And after September 11th, he enlisted, I said, why don't you go to OCS? You got a college degree. He's like, they wouldn't pay for my college student loans if I was OCS.
Yep.
Since I was enlisted, they took care of everything.
Yeah.
So,
worth
smart.
it. Yeah.
So
I've never paid a cent for college, and I got my degree. I got my master's from TCU, and my bachelor's was from Park University, which isn't like super well known, but it was on the base. So I did that one. It was like how they do satellites.
Yeah.
Like
right.
Yeah. So I did a satellite for Park University, just because they were super military friendly.
Right.
They very discounted rates. So,
well, I mean, financially, right now, I mean, as a defense attorney, you're dependent on the phone ringing. We don't get direct deposits.
Yeah.
If the phone rings, we have business, then, great. We're flush, but we still have to pay overhead. Yep. We have to hustle. And being a criminal defense attorney is more about being
a business owner.
Well, yeah, you're a bill collector.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're a babysitter, but you're a bill collector. You're a businessman.
Yeah.
Or businesswoman. And if you're in the prosecutor's office, you don't have to worry about overhead. You don't have to worry about advertising. You don't have to worry about insurance. You don't have to worry about paying the utilities.
Right.
You just show up and go to work.
Yeah.
If you're a sole practitioner or you're not in the government office, those are all things you have to make before you can pay yourself.
Yeah.
Assuming the phone's ringing and people want to hire you.
Yeah.
So, it's just this monster that you create with advertising, and you got to pay the advertising bill,
right?
So, and then you got to track down the people who have money for dope and they have money to drink, but they don't have money for the lawyers, right? So it's priorities.
So I got to hire muscle,
car payments and cell phones and drugs, but not for their lawyers. And they come to us.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, I'm falling on hard times, but I'm calling you from my cell phone while I'm smoking dope.
That's why I like
driving around in my new car.
That's why I like the Lincoln Lawyer.
So I'll tell you what, that's probably the most spot on representation and portrayal of criminal defense.
Really?
I was finishing some of McConaughey's lines.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's just some stock lines that he was using.
Yeah. I liked when his boy was like not gonna pay. Or alluding to the fact he's not going to pay, and he's like, "Your Honor, I need a continuance. We we got another witness that
essential witness."
Yep.
Right. Mr. Green has not made an appearance.
Yep. Ooh, that's smart.
Yeah, his line of I've got the money. He's like, that's the problem. You've got the money. I don't.
Yeah.
It's there were some lines he was.
He got that movie down.
Well, I mean, it's an accurate portrayal of an interaction with. The first probably 15, 20 minutes interaction with clients.
Yeah.
It's pretty spot on.
Yeah. Have you ever been pulled over by a biker gang?
No, I have not. Trace Adkins has not pulled me over, and
that is Trace Adkins.
That is Trace Adkins.
Oh my God. I never put it together until you said that.
Right.
That's awesome. Yeah. That is Trace Adkins. Holy shit. I never even put that together. All right.
But yeah, it's
he's a big dude.
I don't know where I was going with all this.
We were just talking about like I guess I don't know what we were talking about before that. We were talking about the portrayal of a defense attorney and the money. Yeah.
So, with a county judge, you're on the county payroll, not the state of Texas payroll, like a district judge would be.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a unique deal. But I mean, it's working in the same courtroom every day, being available to the parties to resolve, cases. And, the commute is going to be a lot nicer.
Yeah.
I drive all over Creation.
I bet.
I put a lot of miles in my car.
So can you do me a favor? Can you make me a promise if you get elected?
Yes, sir.
wear a powdered wig at least once.
A powdered wig?
Yes.
Can I put a mole in my?
Yes.
Ooh, you know?
I talked about this with
like French, like French
imperial
looking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very old English, Parliament style. I think that, like, to me, if I'm gonna be a judge, I'm going to every once in a while. I want to throw back to my roots, and pay homage to those that paved the way for us to get where we're at. Because court is very traditional, even to this day, with the religious aspects of it is what I call it. I grew up Catholic, and so you've got all these, aerobics exercises that you have to do every time you go into a Catholic church. So, I'm a very poorly practicing Catholic these days, but
you're practicing. That's the thing. It's practicing.
I talk to God. He knows what's up. Yeah. So, but I just always thought, I'm like, man, if I was a judge, I mean, it's not to make a mockery or anything like that, but I would have an old school uniform on just once in a while. You got the robes with the wig.
Right.
I think it'd be cool, and nobody does it. Right. So now you're gonna need to crank the AC up because I heard those robes are hot.
Yeah, I'm, kind of a hot natured.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Polyester,
I should have warned you when you came here that it gets warm in this room too. You're doing okay though, but and I wear shorts and short sleeves most of the time because I've tried to do. I was like, this is, I'm trying to be educational, and I'm not a serious person by nature. So I was like trying to like be something I'm not a little bit at first, and I was like, I just started sweating my butt off in here, and I was like, no more. I'm just gonna wear shorts and a t-shirt in this. Right. I love Hawaiian shirts, so I've been sneaking in Hawaiian shirts on the show occasionally. But for you, I've heard the robes are super hot. So
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you got a good shot, man.
Well, I'm putting my best foot forward.
Yeah.
If it works out, great. I can serve the citizens of Tarrant County. If it doesn't work out,
still got a good gig.
I get to keep doing what I enjoy.
Yeah.
And keep helping people.
Yep.
So it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah.
I'm blessed either way.
Yeah. I had put in for a position within my own department, and I really wanted it. I'd been working my butt off for about 2 years to get it, and I didn't get it.
Right.
So, sucks for me, but I'm in a sweet gig.
Right.
I'm in basically the job that I would have been going to is the same job, just more serious offenses. So I'm still doing the same thing though, and I love it. So it's really fun, and it's the same type of thing that you're talking about. You're doing what you love. You got the passion for it. It doesn't matter. So you're just going to try to get to another spot that you'd be passionate about, and it's something new. But if you don't get it, you're still in a good place, man.
A buddy of mine in Arlington is on the warrant squad.
Oh, okay.
He works Monday through Friday.
Like fugitive unit?
He does more municipal warrants.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
He's 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, and he's taking the sergeant test.
Oh,
and
okay.
Promoting out. But he's like, I've kind of got mixed feelings. It's a pay raise, but I'm going to go to deep nights and be back on patrol and have terrible hours,
terrible days off.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know if I really want to do it.
Yep,
it's a promotion, but
I will. I've made the decision a long time ago. I want to be a chief.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot of ideas. I try to implement them as I go up the chain, but as well as I do, unless you're the top dog, some of those changes, they either won't be seen or they won't come to fruition unless you've got the power to do it. So that's kind of part of this show. I'm hoping other people at least can take my ideas and help make things better. But I want to go up. So I will never let promoting suffer at the hands of enjoying what I'm doing now.
Right.
So I've got one more year before I can try to promote to sergeant, and I'm going to do it, even though I love what I do. And I'll have fun no matter where I go. So if I do go to midnights and my schedule sucks, that will be the worst part of it, because I'm still going to go have fun, and I'm going to help try to train, street patrol officers and let them learn from my experiences. And I think everybody's got something to bring to the table. So learning from officers, whether they've been on the streets 3 months or 10 years, you can always learn something from officers. So that's fun. And then I can't name a time that I've been to court that I haven't learned something.
Yeah.
Every time. I've learned something every time. And I will say that I have never had asshole prosecutor. They've always taken the time to be like, all right, take a look at this, do this, and break things down. And I love when they tell me the why behind why they're doing things the way they do.
Right.
So, McMinn, do you know McMinn at all?
Jackson?
Yeah, Jackson McMinn. Like, straight
shooter. He's a good guy.
Yes. And he's one of the few, like, I have a complex with intake prosecutors. Some I love, some I believe think they hold too much power.
Alfredo.
And I'm not naming any names, but I hate when I'm like, my stuff will get rejected, or they're like, you need to do this, 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 and this. And I look and I'm like, that's all in there. Like, you didn't read it.
Right.
What are you talking about? So they hold too much power. I'll leave it at that. But McMinn, I came to him with the catalytic converter stuff, and I found some health and occupations code stuff. And I was like, I need a champion for our cause on your side. Does this fit? And it's a class A and B, but it's something to get my foot in the door with some of these guys. And he looked through it. He's like, dude, I think the language is there. He's like, and then he helped us figure out how to, write our affidavits. Craft the reports to fit. And really just stepped up. And he was excited because we were excited.
Right.
And I love that. Like, you get a prosecutor that does that. And I can't remember his position. I think he is an intake guy now.
Is he?
Yeah, I think so. I think he got, like, he's like, I don't want the responsibility. I want to step back. And I know he's seniority-wise, he's up there.
He's been there a while.
Yeah. But, he's a good dude and great. Like, he's probably been the best as far as I can. And Jessica, I can never say her last name right. She yells at me.
Terrio?
Terrio. That's right. Because I always want to say Theriot.
Right.
She's like, she cringes. So I'm like, it's not it? She goes, no. It's Terrio. So, yeah, them two. I went to school with Jessica.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we did the same program together at TCU. And we had a general disdain for people that don't do their job. Like, we're writing a group paper, and I wrote my half, and you write your half, and that person still hasn't even put their name on anything.
Right.
And I'm like, we're going to get a grade for this, and that's going to, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to drag down and wash up on you.
Yeah. So luckily we came together and got with the instructor, and we're like, look, this is what's going on. She's like, don't worry, I'll just judge you guys based on what you've presented.
That was good.
I was like, all right, cool. So. That's what's great. Always having somebody open into an argument.
Well, it just it takes everybody working together.
Yeah,
just like anything else.
Are you familiar with 10-7 Outdoors at all?
No.
Okay. There's an event tonight that I'm going to. 10-7 Outdoors, just in case you don't know, is a foundation for fallen officers' children.
Oh, okay.
So what they do is they, say I go, they would take my kids, teach them how to camp, teach them how to hunt, teach them how to fish, teach them, all the fish and wildlife, outdoor rules and things of that nature, to give them that tool and an escape in a sense, something to craft as they get older. And it's not just a one-time off, like, okay, we'll teach you to do this now. It's a lifetime thing. They stay with the kid. Once they're enrolled, they're there forever. Like, they may choose not to participate, but they're always under their wing type thing. So very cool. 100% of the money that they get goes to it. It's not like a Wounded Warrior or anything like that, where only 2% goes to the actual cause. I made that number up. I know it's low, but I don't want to get sued. So
overhead.
Yeah, exactly.
Commercials.
Yeah.
Trace Adkins.
Yeah,
he's spokesman.
You know a lot about Trace Adkins. What's the deal? You guys boys? That's funny.
He's actually, there's a song of his that it's basically about a dad and his daughter.
Oh, okay.
Growing up.
Okay.
I can't think of the name of it.
Don't make me cry. If it's a sad song, the Butterfly Kisses gets me. All those daughter songs.
It's a dad with daughters.
Yeah.
Song.
Yeah, I can't. Dude, I cry at Disney films. Ever since I've had daughters, I've become the most emotional, compromised male out there. Like, everything makes me cry.
Yeah, that happened. That's happened to me when I've gotten in my 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Rudy always got to me, it's like, okay, the end scene. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's when you find yourself choking up over, like the ending of Toy Story, like
right.
It's a cartoon.
Yeah.
But there's so much emotion packed into that movie. And, I mean, it is. You.
I know.
20 years ago, I'd be like, whatever.
I know.
But now it's.
Oh, yeah. I watch every Disney film, every one of them, because my kids love Disney. I think we went and watched Frozen 2 when that came out.
Right.
I'm like, well, this ain't gonna be sad, but it figured out a way to make me cry every time, just a little tear.
Right.
My wife will look over at me and she's just like, hey. I'm like, shut up. It's because I have daughters.
Right.
Emotion
changes you.
It does, for sure, for the better.
Yeah, it does.
I have a lot more empathy and emotional connection, I guess I should say, than I ever did before I had kids. Mm-hmm. So I believe in having the kids and growth. It makes you grow. So to a better human.
Back to 10-7.
Oh yeah, 10-7. So yeah, tonight they have an auction, I guess you could call it, and they asked me to come out and do hey, I'm here at 10-7 Outdoors. I'm, who are you? Why are you here? What do you believe in? Or why are you doing this type thing? So I'll clip that all together. But they're feeding me and the wife, so we get to dress nice like you, sir. How many suits you own? As an attorney.
I've got a couple more I just ordered from.
I always wondered. I just know attorneys got a ton of them.
It's. I need to get new ties.
Ties is the problem. See, I think that was where I've probably got 15 in the back right now.
I've probably got 18 to 20 ties, but I find that I wear the same 4 or 5.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm I guess somewhat lazy with my wardrobe. Like I reach for what's on top. And I take the tie off and it's still on the top. A few days later, so I put it back on and it's a few suits. I've got a couple more I just ordered to put in the rotation and didn't wear a lot of suits for the last year during COVID because courthouses weren't open. If I'm going to sit at the office and do paper, I can do that in shorts and a polo shirt or something.
Heck yeah. I'm just curious. I was like,
I didn't get the moths off of my clothes and keep the suit back up again.
Keep playing your cards right, sir. You just switch over to robes.
Well, there's
you can wear whatever you want under those.
There's plenty of judges that are jeans and a shirt.
I'd be in boxer shorts and a t-shirt, a wife beater, right? He's like, I'm trying to get elected. Don't get me in trouble.
Whatever works. So it's gonna be entertaining. I don't take myself seriously, but I take what I do seriously.
On the
so I think that's kind of the thing with if officers that are watching and just general public that tune in, and I've said this a few times, we're the same, two sides of the same coin. But I've got so many police officer friends, and at the end of the day, we're all doing a job, and we can disagree without being disagreeable. But because we all have our job to fulfill. But at the end of the day, we're all doing our part to have a just and safe community.
Unlike most parts of the world. There's no other justice system like ours.
That's the best there is.
I mean, it's
not perfect.
It's not perfect, and we're trying to fix it all the time. I think that's the important part. It's always progressively trying to get better, not regress.
Right.
So, but yeah, man, you got anything you want to throw out there? Anything that people need to know before we wrap up? Where can people reach you? Where can people find your campaign? All that stuff.
My website is www.boltonforjudge.
All right.
BOLTON forjudge.com. I'm on Facebook. It's at Bolton for Judge 9, the number 9.
Okay.
I'm accessible. My email and my phone number are on my website.
All right.
I tell people the only way you can't get a hold of me is if you don't try. So like I've said before, this is an elected position. You're subject to the will of the folks that get you there. You're accountable to the people that get you there, and part of being a public servant is being available to discuss issues with the public.
I agree.
To whom you serve. And, I'm not in the business of twisting people's arms, and I don't sell used cars.
Yeah.
So I'd like for people to be educated.
Yeah.
I think as a whole, we have an uninformed electorate that go out and vote sometimes. Yep. And I'd encourage everyone to basically research and read up on the folks that are going to be filling positions, and go with the folks they think will do the best job and represent them and serve their county.
Yeah. I think one of the benefits of you coming on here is it's going to get people can't fake their personality for 2 hours, 34 minutes. Okay. Right. They can fake their personality for 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, but people are going to get it to come on here, see your personality, see what you're about, see where you came from a little bit. Right. We could always go further and further into the person that is Mr. Bolton, but we're limited on time and all that. But I think this is a good start. If anybody really wants to see who you are, what you're about, this is a good start. So I appreciate you coming on here, sir.
I appreciate the privilege of being here. I'm very flattered that you agreed to have me. Hey. I just, when I saw William's thing and the caption was, "What does a prosecutor do?" I was like, oh, well, yeah. What does a defense lawyer do? Exactly.
And that was one of the things I told him. I was like, I need to get a defense attorney. I'm trying to get the guys that I was telling you about earlier. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to get those guys on here because they're retired and, they're still doing defense stuff and filling in judge spots, which I didn't know you could do. Yeah. So they do those type of things. So I want to get them on here and go through more of what a police officer can expect when they're on trial.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I don't think that's out there either. So
there's some defense attorneys that, there's prosecutors that are true believers. There are defense attorneys that are true believers.
Yeah.
There are cops that are true believers. They're out there.
Yeah.
And again, those are the outliers.
Yeah.
I think what most officers and most jurors who've never had any experience with the court systems, when they come to court and listen to a case, it's not like what they see on TV. It's not like what they see in the movies. There's not banging on tables and fiery speeches.
Yeah.
It is, I think, with the right temperament, courts are a place of respect, efficiency, and seeking out truth.
Yeah.
And of course, there are different means to accomplish that. Some people are, firebrands and they bang on the table.
Yeah.
Those are the outliers.
Yeah.
But, for officers, rookie officers, people who are, even if you're not a rookie officer, you're just not experienced in trial, there are some gotcha aha moments. Those are based on the investigation, though, that's conducted and the things that are said during direct examination. So like my cross-examination, I already know what's in the can.
Yeah.
My file is usually closed and it's over to the side of the table. I'm listening to the things that the officer says on direct examination. Sometimes my cross-examination consists entirely of things that were said on direct.
Yep.
And it's the divergence between what's in the report.
Yeah.
And what he's just testified to.
The door they opened.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just, lawyers aren't there to call officers liars unless they are.
Yeah.
It's more of a challenging of the evidence and ensuring that the state has done its job of proving its case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yep.
Making those objections, ensuring that the system works all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think what you'll find, I think in your experience, there's not a lot of animosity from defense attorneys to police officers. Yeah. I mean, without y'all, our phone doesn't ring.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all part of the circle of life, but there's a professionalism and a respect that I think everyone has towards officers in the court system. That y'all make judgment calls based on investigation, and now we're trying to sort out that decision.
Yeah,
and more often than not, it's we concur.
Yeah,
now let's do something about damage control.
Yeah,
so
that's where the plea agreements come in.
Right.
I hear you. So
I've said it a few times, but I mean, it really does ring true. We are all working together to ensure that we have a just and safe community.
Yep.
And every part in that machine has to turn and function properly for the system to work.
I agree. All right, sir. I think that's a good way to close her up.
All right.
I appreciate you being here.
Appreciate it, bud.